White. Wide open, Torrence! Oh, baby! Touchdown! How do you leave the best receiver in the NAIA that wide open?
You show, and that's what we do! Cat!
You're proud of me?
And it's caught! Oh my goodness! Troy Torrence comes down with it!
Welcome all to Bankroll Blitz right here on Pub Sports Radio. Happy Tuesday, November 12th to all of you. Week 11 awaits our breakdowns. 14 games on the Week 11 NFL card. And Troy, this is the first show all season. It took to Week 11 that we both come in the black on the season. It's been a much wilder roller coaster ride for you. I've been very middling all season. But excellent work for you last week. You've thrusted your way into the black. How are you doing, my man?
Holy shit, Jimmy. It feels great to finally be here with you on the right side of break even. And I feel like I'm seeing the board great. When the market is most efficient, that's usually when I take things home. And week 7 through 14, 3 years in a row, the market becomes more efficient. And I crushed it in that range last year, and I pulled myself out of the depths of the despair this year, and I said it on Twitter. I truly believe it. When you have an edge, you just continue to hammer away. You beat the variance with sample size. So that's exactly what I'm doing.
Absolutely. It was a great job. Getting here. Now, double-digit units. This is not good enough. Let's both get into double-digit units, and I truly believe that is ahead of us. Shout out to all the cappers joining us. Got Random Bozo, Sammy Comer, Gerald Jones, Dougie Wise, Mac Beavers, Dennis Garcia, the Nuke Worker. Great to see all of you guys. Let's quickly discuss the week that was. We got off to a middling start. We were both on the Bengals, but unfortunately, we were both on the under in that Baltimore-Cincinnati game. 21-7 with 9 minutes left in the third quarter. It looked pretty good. So we lost that. The Steelers was a great spot. You were also on the money line, and then you had a bunch of teasers with the Steelers, and you cashed all of them except for the one with the Giants money line. So the Steelers were a great score for you. So were the Broncos. You got them plus 8.5 and plus 8. I only had them 8.5. Falcons hurt both of us. They hurt you a little more, although you did catch the under 46.5, which was a great
that game right there, Jimmy. That game right there, instead of being up 2 units, I'm up 10 units on the season. That's how big of a swing that is.
Yeah, it was a fascinating game, and we'll be discussing that here on the show. The Colts, Buffalo Bills under is another spot that, changed my week from 4-3 to I would have been 5-2 if that late meaningless touchdown didn't go score with 2 seconds left. Dunze over 37.5 receiving yards didn't get through, and then you had some Jets action that hurt you. But you also had a ton of Lions action and Dolphins action, which was very, very good too. It was a very, very successful week for you, and you are now in the black. For me, Bengals plus 6.5 cash, the under 53.5 Cincinnati Baltimore lost. Giants Carolina under 41.5, very easy casher. Buffalo Indianapolis under 46 lost. Broncos plus 8.5 cashed. Falcons minus 3 lost, and Steelers plus 3 cashed. It was a lower volume week. For whatever reason, each week I either have heavy volume or low volume. There's no middling. So if we keep in how this has been rolling, that would mean I'm going to have a monster week here with a ton of volume.
Here's the sign that tells me you're on the right side and you're fucking locked in right now. Is that the 3 spots you had a question? You left off your card. All 3 were losers.
Yeah,
that's right there. It says something.
That hit me pretty hard too, because that was the Colts, that was the 49ers, and the last one on the Jets, the Colts, 49ers, and Jets. Yeah, no, that caught me too. It's been a really strong couple weeks for me here, but it's not been a great year for me. So I'm not sitting here feeling good about myself. I'm sitting here just itching, champing to rock here. So let's get to work. D. Jenkins in the house, the truth teller. Are you ready to get rolling, my man?
Let's do it.
We start Thursday, November 14th. 8:15 p.m. Eastern. I have already moved on this football game, and the line's gone 2 cents against me since I moved on it this afternoon. Washington Commanders 7-3, 3-2 on the road at the Philadelphia Eagles 7-2, 3-1 at home. We're at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. 46 Fahrenheit. There's a chance of showers, but just 6-mile-per-hour winds. I have moved on the Eagles -3. and -118. Generally speaking, after the Eagles trounce a poor opponent in the Cowboys, or any team that trounces a poor opponent, I'm not looking to back them the next week. But the Commanders are the new kids on the block. And the Eagles have something for them. I truly believe that this is not a spot where I need to have any concern over, Philly coming in feeling good about themselves or sluggish after beating up on the Cowboys. No, they want to send a message to the Commanders here. I truly, truly believe it's extremely important to them to send a message now, because this Commanders team is going to be a problem for the next decade with Jaden Daniels, quarterback. So this line right now, I'm looking at a 3.5. This 3.5 opened up at -108. And it's now +104. Look, I know the Commanders are a public darling, so maybe I didn't need to get in it that early, but I literally thought when I saw a -3 at -118 under the -120, now I could get it right now -116, but I thought, oh, I got to take it. I got to take it. And I did. And I did with confidence. On the total side of things here, we have a 48. It is juiced to the over. This has dropped down from 49.5. And I agree with the move towards the under. Cash flow wise in this one, 60% of the tickets, 65% of the cash is on the Philadelphia Eagles, 75% of the tickets and 87% of cash is on the over. And I am also interested in the under in this one. Let's talk about the Commanders first off. Their rushing offense has been very, very good. Thanks, in part to Jaden Daniels. They also have been dealing with Brian Robinson out of the lineup. And when Eckler is RB1, like we saw last week in that 28-27 loss at home to the Steelers, they're not as good. He's not a guy that runs into the teeth of the defense. Now, he's excellent catching the ball out of the backfield. He does some good things. He's a smart guy, but he's no Brian Robinson. And Robinson was a limited participant in practice today and yesterday, so he's expected to return to the lineup on Thursday. Again, he's listed as questionable. It's not confirmed.
What's his injury, Jim?
Sorry, my man?
What's his injury?
Brian Robinson's injury right now is a hamstring injury. Hamstring injury. But being a limited participant on Monday and Tuesday tells me that I would bet on him playing at this point. Now, these things, as you know, can linger. So we'll have to see. Passing offense, 11th in the league, 23.5 yards per game. Red zone offense, 16th at 54.6%. It's a real Jekyll and Hyde red zone offense. I mean, they either eat or they do nothing. It's hard to find the balance. Third down offense been very good all year, 5th at 44.7%. Pass defense is 5th in the league. They're allowing 182.8 yards per game. Their rush defense, 28th. They allow 142.1 yards per game on the ground. And we know what the Eagles want to do. They want to just gash you on the ground. The red zone defense for the Commanders is 30th. They're third worst in the league. They allow touchdowns 70% of the time, and it's a problem. Their third down defense is 23rd in the league. They allow conversions 42.1% time, and it's another problem. They come in after having their 3-game winning streak snapped in 28-27 loss at home to the Steelers. Jaden Daniels was 17 of 34 for 202 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. He also had 3 carries for 5 yards. So it was his lowest output as a pro. Is it just a coincidence that he's trying to play through this rib injury that he says is still there, but it's nothing that's holding me back? Is it just a coincidence that he goes for 5 yards on 3 carries, his lowest output as pro? I do not believe it is. I think the rib is bothering him, and I think it's going to bother him against the Philadelphia Eagles who want to hurt him. The Commanders only had 242 yards of total offense. Scary Terry led receivers with 5 catches for 113 yards. No one else did anything. As I said, Eckler ran 13 times for 44 yards. Now, he did get 2 touchdowns. The Commanders were just 5 of 14 on third down, but they were a perfect 3 for 3 in the red zone. The defense held the Steelers to just 4.2 yards per play, but they couldn't get the Pittsburgh Steelers off the field. The Steelers had 21 first downs, held on to the ball for 36 minutes and 11 seconds, and the Eagles are going to want to use that exact same script in this one. Pass rush finished with 3 sacks and 6 quarterback hits. Dante Fowler had 2 sacks. Jeremy Chin had an interception and a fumble recovery. Right tackle Andrew Wiley was a late scratch, and newly acquired Marshawn Lattimore has still not practiced. He's going to be a non-participant today. There's no reason why anyone would think that he's going to be in the lineup here on a Thursday. And Austin Siebert dealing with the hip injury set out as we expected. Shout out to our guy, Old E, gifting 5 Pub Sports Radio memberships. That means a ton to us, Old E. Thank you so much for your support, my man. It really means a ton to us, our friend Old E. Let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles here. Their passing offense, 20th in the league, 197.8 yards per game. They can't seem to get on the same track, it seems like. Now, A.J. Brown caught 5 passes for 109 yards, but who else was catching the ball other than Saquon out of the backfield? It's not really working right now. Their rushing offense, though, second in the league, 176.1 yards per game. Their red zone offense, 10th at 60%. Third down offense, just 15th at 39.2%. Their passing defense, I mean, come on, Fangio. What a spectacular job he's done here. Their passing defense, allowing 173 yards through the air, third in the league. Their rush defense, allowing just 100.7 yards on the ground, fifth in the league. Their red zone defense, third in the league, allowing touchdowns just 42.3% of the time, and their third down defense 35.8% of the time. When I broke this game down, I just saw advantages everywhere I looked for the Philadelphia Eagles. And now I think Jaden Daniels is playing hurt, and that's just another advantage. Where did the advantages? And then I'm dealing with the public darlings and the Commanders. You know, I know that things aren't always as easy as they look sometimes, but this feels like a slam dunk here. And I don't care that the market's moving a little bit away from me, because I know that people love the Commanders, love Jaden Daniels. Eagles coming off their 5th straight win, easy 34-6 victory at Dallas, outgained the Cowboys 348-146. Hurts was 14-20 for 202 yards, 2 touchdowns, interception. Also ran 7 times for 56 yards, 2 touchdowns, and lost the fumble. Passer rating of 115. Hurts is the first quarterback in NFL history with a touchdown pass, a rushing touchdown, and a plus 100 rating in 4 consecutive games. He's also the first quarterback with at least 10 rushing touchdowns in 4 consecutive seasons. He's just a monster, and I trust that he wants to send a message to the next one in Jaden Daniels. A.J. Brown, 5 for 109. Like I said, Saquon ran 14 for 66, caught a 12-yard pass, so he didn't do any. Nobody but A.J. Brown did anything, receiving-wise. But they didn't have to do much because the Cowboys weren't doing anything. Eagles went 4 or 5 in the red zone. The defense completely shut down Cooper Rush and the Cowboys. Held Dallas to 2.6 yards per play. Held Dallas to 3 of 14 on third down, 0 of 2 in the red zone. Pass rush had 3 sacks, 6 quarterback hits. Zach Bond forced 2 fumbles, recovered one of them. C.J. Gardner had an interception, and Goddard returns from a 3-game absence. He was out with a hamstring injury, 63% snap share, caught 2 of his 3 targets for 25 yards and a touchdown. Take the Eagles to the bank. Troy, floor is yours, our Thursday nighter.
I, as well as you, Jim. I love this matchup. I've been waiting for opportunities to fade the Commanders. I've been talking about how they're top of their price range right now, currently in the market. And what good defenses, I continue to say this every week, what good defenses has this Commanders team played? They played against Pittsburgh. They lost every offensive category, and they only had 4.1 yards per play. We just seen that play out. And the Bears, they had 12 points before a Hail Mary buzzer beater as the clock ticked down to 0. Now they got the Eagles, and the Eagles moving to first place per PFF as it relates to overall defense. And it was very clear that Jaden Daniels and this offense has its deficiencies. Maybe it is a lingering rib injury, because there's a constant reminder when you're playing with that rib injury and you're playing quarterback and you're torquing your torso like that. I don't care what drugs you're on. You're going to feel a little bit of discomfort. It might not be pain, but it's discomfort. It's a reminder that you have a cartilage injury. That shit is calcifying. That's just going to bother you for a few weeks. I think the Eagles are primed to recreate some of those deficiencies that we just seen this past week. I think this defense is solid at every level, and I'm talking about the defense because that was where my real question is. I think the offense is going to be able to turn out points. They just have so many options and so many ways to create easy offense, including the tush push on third, fourth, and short yardage. So I'm talking about the defense and what we've seen this defense do. The scheme that Fangio is implementing, it's truly been impressive. They're top 5 in points per game, yards per play, red zone percentage. Fangio has his defense humming. He has guys like Nakobe Dean finally coming along. The other players on the defense, I mean, all these guys are just uptrending in their PFF grades. And, on the other side of the ball, you got Jaden Daniels, who has that rib injury. That's definitely impacted him. I have to imagine it is, because he hasn't been the same. Robinson with the hamstring. The thing about the hamstring is you really don't know if you're okay when you got a hamstring injury. Once you get past a certain point, you got to get back out on the field and test it. But if you test it too early, it's like playing chicken, because, if you come back and test it too early and you tweak it again, you're out for another 2-3 weeks. So he's been out for a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. This will be 2 weeks. fully. So I don't know what to expect from a Robinson standpoint, but I know Jaden Daniels' injury is bothering him. Offensively, the Eagles, they're going to be able to impose their will, win at the line of scrimmage, lean on Saquon Barkley. And when these DBs start creeping into the box, you know that they have the ability to exploit them over the top. The Commanders' defense is vulnerable. Not only is their offense not seeing very many good defenses, and they haven't performed when they have, but what about their defense? When they played against good offenses, the Bengals dropped 33. The Ravens put up 30. The Bucs dropped 37 on this team. I love the matchup. I think the Eagles are going to be able to score between 24 and 30 points, and I think that's enough to cover or push on the 3. So I bet the 3. I posted it -3, -115. I posted it yesterday. I also got them in a money line parlay that I have not posted yet. You're hearing it here first. I have them 2 ways on money line parlays: Eagles Lions money line, Eagles Dolphins money line. It's -129 and -101 respectively.
So that was
Eagles Lions money line -129.
okay. And then the Eagles Dolphins.
It's money line -101.
Eagles Lions, and then Eagles Dolphins -101. You are in business. I'm right with you. So Eagles Dolphins -101, Eagles Lions -129, and Eagles -3 -118. I'm right with you. And I am very interested in the under in this game. I think it's going to be very intense. I think this is moving in the under and for the right reasons. What did you think of this total? Because I would like the more I think about it, the more I want it.
Yeah, I really like the under. And I have a question for Spenny. I mean, that was at the beginning of the year, some of those matchups where they allowed points. I mean, what was 5 weeks ago with Baltimore? That was the most recent. But since then, the Carolina Panthers, Chicago Bears, the New York Giants, and then the Pittsburgh Steelers put up 28 points on them. So what could we expect? I'm not sold on this defense. There's a reason this defense was ranked, I think, 30th overall per PFF prior to the season beginning. So we shall see. But the total, 48.5, I don't expect the Commanders to do their job. So I ask myself, I look at this number, I look at this market in division. This market is ripe at 3.5. As long as we're not taking down to 2.5, like I feel very confident, especially with the total being so high. And I have not seen the move, Jim. I was waiting to see a move in this range towards the under before moving on it, because I think we have a little bit of leeway because we're sitting where we're at. If it gets down to 47, obviously, is where you'd want to catch it by. And we have seen, holy crap, we're down to 48.
Yeah, I mean, I could even move on Washington's team total under. I'm not going to triple up, but I will decide between the under and Washington's team total under. I think Washington team total under is the way to go, honestly.
So spreads that close 3.5 in a division game. The market on the total is 60%, 20 and 13, a little over 60%. So basically, if it's taken to the under, it's definitely a good sign. You see a bunch of under trends here. Yeah, I was looking at this earlier. I mean, I like it, Jim.
I like it too, and I'm going to move on it. So I'm going to move on that tonight after the show. I will decide what I think is best risk reward between the full game under and the Washington team total under. That is our Thursday nighter. We'll be live right here on Pub Sports Radio. Join us for the live stream. We're running real hot live action on our show. We move on to Sunday, and the big news to get this one started is there was a firing. There was somebody who lost their job today, and it is Shane Waldron, fired as the Bears offensive coordinator. 10 months after being hired on the job, he is gone. So this is questionable stuff. Firing guys mid-season in NFL. The Bears have not changed offensive coordinators in the middle of the season since 1970. Now, they've scored 27 points over these last 3 losses. I get why it was done, but this just happened this evening here. Packers, Bears, Soldier Field in Chicago, Illinois. 57 Fahrenheit, cloudy, 14 miles per hour. I've already moved on the under 41, -110. It hasn't moved since I bet it, But I knew I wanted it, and I needed to get it as soon as possible. And those are the spots that have been cashing for me, the spots where I'm like, I have to bet this as soon as possible. And I did that here. We have a move down to 40.5 at Pinnacle. Oh, sorry, we're not talking about those books anymore, as we're focusing on our legal American sports books. Not that one is an illegal one, but you know what I mean. So it has moved to 40.5 at some books. Let's get into the point spread here for this one. On the point spread, we have Chicago plus 6 or 6.5. The 6.5 here has taken 10 cents, gone from minus 106 to minus 116. So that's why it's moved to 6 at some books. When we get to the cash flow for this Bears spot, Bears Packers, 80% of the tickets and 92% of the cash is on the Green Bay Packers, and 71% of tickets, 69% cash is on the over. So let's talk about this spot here. We'll start with the Packers. Passing offense, 7th in the league, 235.2 yards per game. Rushing offense is 3rd. They get 154.8 yards per game. Their red zone offense has been bad all season long. 29th in the league, 47.1%. Third down offense, 19th in the league at 37.4%. Their pass defense is middling, 15th, 207 yards a game they allow. Their rush defense, 10th at 113. Their red zone defense has been a problem. They're 20th in the league. They allow touchdowns 59.4% of the time. And their third down defense is 6th. They allow conversions 33% of the time. And the Packers are coming in off of bye week. And I know they're a well-coached team, but I don't think they're a very good football team. If I am fading them in the playoffs, I probably do it with confidence. They were last seen in a disappointing 24-14 loss at home to the Lions. You know, if the season ended today, they're the 7 seed, you know, just like they ended up last season. But I see a big difference. At this point a year ago, they were 3-6, and they caught fire. Are they going to do it this year? You know, we're asking the same question to the 49ers. I mean, they always, after that week 9 bye, they go 8-1. Are they going to do that this year? That win over the Buccaneers certainly didn't give us inclination that it will. Jordan Love feels different than we know the last 8 games of the year last year, he was the best quarterback in the NFL. He's throwing 10 interceptions and 240 pass attempts. Last year, he threw 11 interceptions on 579 pass attempts. He's tied with Geno Smith for the lead in interceptions, and he's missed 2 full games with a knee injury and almost half of a third game with a groin strain. So he's also, and this is a very interesting angle about why Jordan Love is not being very good this year. He's only been sacked 7 times. So it's not like he's running for dear life. It's not like he's getting destroyed. It's not like he's getting beaten up back there. He's being protected, and he's making mistakes. Now, they've only committed 13 turnovers. Well, only. It depends if you're comparing them to Las Vegas. Vegas has 19, Tennessee 17, Carolina and Seattle 15. And then there's the Packers with 13 turnovers. Now, Jaden Reed's playing very well, 36 catches for 620 yards. He's also run for 110 yards on 11 carries. Tucker Kraft, 5 touchdown catches. That's second amongst tight ends. George Kittle has 6. He's ahead. Their ground game with Josh Jacobs in the fold has been very good. You know, Jacobs run for 762 yards, a 3rd in the league. They're averaging 154.8 yards per game, as I talked about, 5th in the NFL. They've run for 1,393 yards. That's their highest total through 9 games since 2003. And they have 19 takeaways. This defense, we saw it when Xavier McKinney came over. He got, 5 interceptions in his first 5 games. But there's other problems. Where's Kenny Clark? 0 sacks on the year. This guy had 7.5 last year. And LaFleur said that Luke Musgrave has undergone ankle surgery. Hopefully be back later this year. So, it is Tucker Kraft's job. I honestly, I don't fear the Packers. Now, does that mean I'm going to bet the Bears? 30th passing offense in the league, 170.2 yards per game, 25th rushing offense. It's been bad, 107.4. Their red zone offense has been really good, 8th in the league, 61.9%, but they're the second worst third down conversion rate in the NFL. So you're not going to get to the red zone offense often. Their pass defense, 7th in the league, allowing 190.4 yards per game. Rush defense, 24th at 133. Their red zone defense is the best in the league. 37% of the time they're allowing touchdowns. And their third down defense, very good, 7th in the league at 33.3. This is a rivalry of the highest proportions, and I think that this game goes under. I think Chicago, we've watched Chicago they've fallen apart since that last-second Hail Mary in Week 8 against Washington. They lose 29-9 at Arizona in Week 9. We're questioning their, we're questioning everything about their character, and they go and deliver an even worse performance, losing 19-3 at home to the Patriots last week. It's amazing how fast this is all falling apart. And, the fans are chanting "Fire Flus," the whole crowd chanting it at the end of the game. They're 14-29 in 2.5 seasons under Eberflus, and now he's fired Waldron. So I thought they were just going to take his play calling duties away, but now they want him out of the building. 1 of 14 on third down, 142 yards, just 2.4 yards per play. Caleb Williams, 16 of 30 for 120 yards. That's 1.8 yards per pass. Drake May didn't play that well, and he had 7.1 yards per pass. That's how bad Caleb Williams was last week. And the offensive line is putrid. Do they not like him? Because we've heard of this happening before. I mean, he was sacked 9 times. He was hit 13 times. Keenan Allen led receivers with 5 catches, 44 yards. We've watched DJ Moore whining and showing how upset he is all the time. DeAndre Swift, 16 carries for 59 yards. It's hard to believe that this Bears team came in on an 8-game winning streak at home. The defense tried to keep them in it, held the Patriots to 1-5 in the red zone. Pass rush had 1 sack, but did have 7 quarterback hits. TJ Edwards had an interception. They lost Tevin Jenkins early in the second quarter. Doug Kramer replaced him, Doug Kramer Jr., and he did a bad job. And Brisker missed his 4th straight game, so Elijah Hicks has been starting alongside Kevin Byard. And Brisker is one of the best young safeties in the league, and there's no sign that he's coming back anytime soon. Take it away for us, Troy, your Bears. I don't like the Packers. I don't think they're that good. But it's not easy to bet the Bears in this situation. Take it away.
Brisker, I don't even have him in my write-up here, and he's one of the pieces I've been talking about. I think he brings the energy that just you can't help but feed off of it. It just extrapolates to the rest of the defense, and you could totally see that without him out there, it makes a difference. It kind of reminds me of Troy Anderson, who I guess we'll talk about later. The Bears obviously had some cancerous cells, but this is like giving a cancer patient surgery, removing some of the cancer, then realizing holy shit, we didn't remove it all. It's starting to spread again. We got to go back in and clean the rest of the house, because just firing Waldron, I'm not sure what that does for this team. Are the guys going to play harder? I mean, who's going to come in and be able to step in and make a difference with where this offense is currently at? The psychology is just devastated in the locker room. You could totally tell that. And this goes back to what I talked about prior to the season with Caleb Williams. Calling the punter says, you want to have to punt too much this year, man. Just chill. That's the cockiest bullshit you ever heard. That's coming back to bite him in the ass. The way he treated Eberflus on draft day on the phone, I thought it was very underwhelming. It was not something you want to hear from your franchise quarterback. The parallels they were making to Jordan, just clearly setting the bar way too high for this kid. The hype was just too much for this. And when the bottom fell out, they just came crashing down. And would you like Caleb Williams if you're his lineman? Based on everything we've seen, even when they go to the sideline, you could tell this team is not bettable, in my opinion. I have no reason to believe that this team is going to score more than 10 points on a weekly basis. Will the offensive line block for their quarterback? I don't know. I thought it was scheme deficiency. You can tell these offensive linemen don't know who to pick up in their blocking scheme. I don't know if Caleb Williams is not sliding the protection the right way, or if they just don't like the guy, or if they're poorly coached. That's how bad it is. You can't even pinpoint what's going on out there, because guys are running free. And I have no belief that this defense is going to, the effort on the defensive side is going to just suddenly return, especially without a guy like Brisker out there. It's been 6 years since the Bears beat these guys. Maybe that will be enough to motivate them. But really, if you're betting the Bears, you're betting something that's unquantifiable. And at the same time, that's kind of what makes it appealing in this spot. The Packers are a team I don't know if we know enough about. Are they overpriced in the market? Right now, they're kind of being treated like a team that's 2.5 points better than an average team. Jordan Love is down year over year. He's having a much worse year. TD to interception, passer rating, completion percentage, just not the same. And where he was extremely efficient was in the intermediate portion of the field last year, not this year. And defensively, outside of their secondary, there's not much to like about the defense. Luckily, you think about the coaching mismatch in this with LaFleur out there, it kind of made me chuckle. I seen someone talk about it in the chat, and it just made me laugh because it's such a disparity. You look at Eberflus, you hear how he addresses his team, how he addresses the media. It's just I don't believe in it. I don't think if I was a player, I would want to get behind a coach like that. And there's just not a chance in hell I'm betting the Bears with the current information I have. Information versus price. I don't have enough to bet the Bears. And historically, this is a Packers win but don't cover type of spot. So I know True Teller was in the chat talking about a money line parlay, maybe. And then Jimmy, to your bet on the total, I love the total X's and O standpoint. I told you this. I texted you this earlier. We've never seen a home dog between 6 and 7 in a divisional matchup with a total less than 42. Usually, when you see that type of the rarity of a market like that, whatever the rare piece of it is, usually kind of is giving you an indicator. So if it was at 54, we've never seen a divisional matchup over 50. I mean, this is a 42 I'm talking about. This is not even we're not talking 36, 37. Like, this is a 42 in a divisional matchup. You'd expect to see something lower than that. The fact that we haven't makes me think the under is the best play in this game.
I like it. Now, would it be better off taking a Bears team total under? I think that the issue with that, let's say it's you get a 16.5, which is, juice to the over. A pick 6 against Jordan Love, an interception against Jordan Love. Like, I'd rather just take this full game under. I don't think the Bears are going to score that much. And I think the Packers know that the Bears are no threat. So you run the ball down their throat. And I think that is what's going to happen here. And the Bears rush defense is their weak spot. They're allowing 133 yards a game on the ground. And I'm sure the Packers are scheming right now how we're going to run the ball down their throat. So I
want to say this too. I mean, just thinking about the under, just generally speaking, there's a stat that I cannot find anywhere, any website, anywhere. I can't find it, and it's how often do you see stunts on the defensive line where it's not just your typical pass rush on a third down. You got guys looping in and outside. You got a bunch of confusion going on. What the hell is that going to do to this offensive line? Like, that's one of the best parts about the Packers defense is the way they stunt their defensive line. It's very unique. You don't see it across the league. They do it more than anybody else from what I've seen. The eye test, I've watched at least two possessions for each team in every single game they played this year. They're definitely an outlier, and I don't see the Bears being able to manage that type of scheme.
Oh, I love the sound of all that, man. And tell me you didn't just say that. It says Jacobs props is the play. You're right. I mean, I take less than 5 player props a year. I try to take less than 1, but this one is that I've asked put asterisks around it as well. I think that
another prop that someone mentioned last game. I don't want to forget about it. I think it was Gerald Jones. He was talking about Scary Terry. There's some real reasons to like Scary Terry props in the game against the Eagles on Thursday night.
But I don't know when you. I know that there's some issue. Well, they've tightened up their pass defense, but Scary Terry's the only person you need to worry about, which opens up the tight ends. There's no other receivers doing anything for the Commanders. It's just Scary Terry, and then Ertz and Brown on the tight end. So
they run the read option on his side basically every read option. They set it up with the RPO. They set it up with Scary Terry and Jaden Daniels. So that's why I like it, because it's going to force some of the coverage off of him.
It's both of these games are so much fun, and I've moved on both of them. But those are my only pre-show bets. Anything for you here in Packers Bears before we move on?
No, not at this point.
Let's roll on. Next up for us, 1 p.m. Eastern with the Jacksonville Jaguars, 2-8, 0-5 on the road at the Detroit Lions, 8-1, 3-1 at home. We're at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. Let's get into the line history here for this one. We have these Lions 13-point favorites and juice to them as well. This opened up at 13 this morning at 8:49 a.m. I know other books that got in early opened this up around 11. This has moved 7 cents towards Detroit at the 13. From a total standpoint, we have a 47. This one's juiced to the over. It opened up juiced to the under. So we've had 7 cents of movement to the over 47 here in this one. Let's take a look at the cash flow for Jaguars Lions. We have 80% of the tickets and 94% of the cash on the Detroit Lions on the spread, and then 27% of the tickets and 47% cash on the under, and yet this is climbing. Let's talk about these Jags. Their passing offense, 23rd in the league, 195.2 yards per game. That's just going to go down with Mac Jones at quarterback. Trevor Lawrence dealing with the AC joint pain in his non-throwing shoulder. There are some sites that think, oh, maybe Jaguars, maybe they, Trevor Lawrence comes back this week. And look, I'm not in the room, but why on earth would they bring him back when they have a bye week next week? They won't. So now, again, I'm just connecting dots here, and I have no inside information, but I do not expect Trevor Lawrence. I expect them because they're not getting surgery. The plan is to treat the injury through rest and rehab. So he's not going to play this week. He'll have the bye week, and then he comes back on week 13. That's the expectation that I have. So a rushing offense for the Jags, 24th, 107.7 yards per game. Red zone offense, 12th in the league, 57.6%. We know that will drop with Mac Jones at quarterback. Third down offense being bad all year. 29th in the league. They convert 33% of the time. Their pass defense has been so bad, allowing 261.2 yards per game. That's third worst in the NFL. Their rushing defense is bad as well. They allow 129.4 yards per game. That's good for 20th in the NFL. Their red zone defense is bad. 23rd in the league. They allow touchdowns 60.5% of the time. Their third down defense is bad. 26th in the league, allowing conversions 43.6% of the time. They come in off a 12-7 home loss to the Vikings. It was ugly. Mac Jones is 14-22 for 111 yards, 2 picks. He also lost a fumble. Evan Ingram led receivers with 6 catches for 40 yards. Travis Etienne had 11 carries for 44 yards. The score did not tell the story in this football game. The Jaguars were outgained 402 to 143. 402 to 143, and the Vikings didn't cover the final number. The Jacksonville's yards was the 5th lowest in franchise history. It's the lowest in Doug Peterson's 3 years at the helm. And Doug Peterson has won 3 of his last 16 games as coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Vikings dominated time of possession. This is the most dominant of this season. 42 minutes and 19 seconds. The Vikings had the ball. Jags had it for 17-41. The Vikings had 28 first downs. Jags had 10. The Jaguar defense kept them in the game. They held the Vikings to 0-5 in the red zone. We've been seeing the Vikings struggle in the red zone quite a bit over the last few weeks. The pass rush was quiet again. 1 sack, 3 quarterback hits, but they did pick off Darnold 3 times. Darnell Savage, Foye Oluokun, and Montaric Brown all had picks. And defensive end Eric Armstead's in concussion protocol. And Tank Bigsby is questionable to play this week with an ankle injury. And Etienne just doesn't look like the number one to me. Let's talk about these Detroit Lions, 8-1. I was worried about the juice on the over 10.5 at -130. Ridiculous. Easy casher. Now the +130 for the divisions next. And then that's all I have. I have no more futures on the lines. I know you do, Troy. Nothing I can do about that. It's too late. Passing offense for the Lions, 14th in the league, 219.6 yards per game. Rushing offense, 7th at 147.3. Red zone offense, 5th in the league, 63.9% of the time they're getting touchdowns. Third down offense, 6th in the league, 43.6% of the time they're converting. Their pass defense has been a bit of a problem, and I know that Carlton Davis had 2 interceptions last game, but he's been picked on a lot this year. 28th in the league. They allow 244.2 yards through the air. Their rush defense is 6th. They allow 100.8 yards per game on the ground. Their red zone defense is 4th. They only allow touchdowns 44.4% of the time, and their third down defense is 1st in the NFL with all the injuries that they've dealt with, 31.4% of the time. They're coming off a wild 26-23 win at the Texans. There's so many different ways to look at the result, but I'm left with this. It takes a very good football team to have their quarterback throw 5 interceptions and you still win the football game. That's what I'm left with, that this is a very, very good football team. They improved to 8-1 for the first time since 1954. 7th straight victory, 5th in a row on the road. Lions, the first team to win when throwing 5 or more interceptions since Atlanta in 2012. Jared Goff, 15-30 for 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 picks. He hadn't thrown an interception in 5 games. He entered the game with just 4 all year. Sammy Laporte had 3 catches for 66 yards and a touchdown, but he hurt his AC joint in the game. He's listed as questionable. So if he's out, again, look for Brock Wright, Shane Zustra. Amon St. Brown caught 6 passes for 60 yards and a touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs ran 19 times for 71 yards, caught 2 for 37. The defense continues to play and execute at a high level. They held the Texans to just 3.8 yards per play. Pass rush had 4 sacks, 7 quarterback hits, held the Texans to 6 of 15 on third down and 2 of 4 in the red zone. Take it away for us, Troy. Is there any move to make with the Lions this big of a favorite? Take it away. Floor is yours. Ford Field, Detroit, Michigan for Jaguars Lions.
Yeah, I think you did a pretty good job. I don't know how much more there is to add. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys why the Lions are so much better than the Jaguars. We're looking at a 13-point spread. The Jaguars have been left for dead. They're abandoned. They're done. This team is done. I don't even know if Trevor Lawrence comes back all season. Why would he? The coaching staff is going to be swept out. They're going to acquire new talent. They want to look to the draft. This team is done this season. And the history of this market tells me exactly that. Home favorites of 10 or more. I talked about this just a few weeks ago when the Lions were at home against Tennessee. Home favorites of 10 or more with a total greater than 44, implying that there's going to be points scored, but only one team scoring points in this case. So home favorite 10 or more, total greater than 44, out of conference. These teams are 78% ATS. They're undefeated straight up. The only reason I don't think it's not that I think I'm not going to be playing the side is because I think we're going to see some ATS regression out of this Lions team eventually. They didn't cover last week as 4-point favorites against Houston. And I don't want to bet on them to bounce back from an ATS standpoint after the streak that they've been on. The Lions team, you said it. I mean, how impressive is it? How great is this defense? It's been playing incredibly tight. To win a game when your quarterback throws 5 picks tells you a very strong story. I'm playing the Lions to win this game. I told you about it earlier in the day. Eagles, Lions, money line, you get it -129. It's a way to get a cheaper price on the Eagles. And if the Lions lose, you won't see me on the show next week.
Well, if I had a free bet, I wouldn't take the Lions -13. I just don't understand how this is not a flat spot.
Okay, but what if it wasn't a free bet? What if it was your friend's money? It was your best friend's money, and it was the last of his money. He's like, please, Jimmy, turn this around. Make me some money on this Lions game. It's the only game on the board for you.
I would rather lose my friend's money on the non-square play. I don't walk into traffic. I'll close my eyes and cross the street, but I'm not going to purposely walk into traffic. So I don't want to go out like that. I just don't want to go out like that. So if I had a free bet here, my bet would be that the Jaguars can keep it within 13. Sorry, if I was with my friend's money, I would bet that the Jaguars can keep this within 13. I mean, looking at the line, I mean, they have the Colts in Indianapolis on deck, and then Bears, Packers, Bills, 3 home games that are, huge. So I just don't see how the Lions get up for this. But so yeah, I wouldn't. I would if it was all on the line, I would say, look, I think the Jaguars can stay within this number. I don't see why the Lions are going to win, by 25 points. So
Don't blame me.
Dennis Garcia says with my money, he would bet Jacksonville too. So but I can understand not wanting to be involved in this football game at all, too. But you know what? I do think that Mac Jones is going to be better here. Getting another week of first reps and getting a little more client, playing so bad, and everybody seeing how bad he looked last week. Why wouldn't he be better in Detroit? Honestly, I would expect him to be a little better, but yeah, it's just a pass for Dennis, just a pass for Big Show, just a pass for you. Do we move on, my man?
Pass it. Let's go.
All right, next up for us, 1 p.m. Eastern, Minnesota Vikings 7-2, 3-1 on the road. The Tennessee Titans 2-7, 1-3 home. Nissan Stadium, Nashville, Tennessee, 62 Fahrenheit, mostly sunny, 7 miles per hour. My pops was in town last weekend, and I told him, I was like, "Look, you guys, you're selling Will Levis short." And he's like, "No, Will Levis trash." I'm like, "No, you're not." He's like, "He's no better than Mason Rudolph." I'm like, "He's going to be better than Mason Rudolph." We know what Mason Rudolph is, a pedestrian. We don't know what Will Levis is. Now, maybe he's trash, but also he has potential. And then my dad sent me an email after that, incredible throw, saying, "Yeah, you were right about Will Levis." And then, of course, Will Levis does nothing for the rest of the game. But let's roll in this one. 62 Fahrenheit, sunny, 7 miles per hour in Tennessee. Let's get into the line history here. This total is at 40. There are some 39.5s on the board. This is juiced to the under. There's been 8 cents of movement since this came out. Under 40 minus 107. Now under 40 at minus 115. Let's get into the point spread here for this one. We have the Titans plus 6. There's a 6.5 listed here. It opened up at 6.5 at minus 108. That 6.5 now minus 128. So, Minnesota does not look good, but it's never comfortable being on the Titans. And I learned my lesson early in the year and stopped in my tracks. Let's take a look at the cash flow then for this one. 82% of the tickets and 95% of the cash on the Vikings. Line's moving towards the Titans. 86% of the tickets and 94% of cash on the over. The line's moving to the under. Let's roll here. We'll start with the Vikings. Passing offense 12th in the league, 23.5 yards per game. But Darnold doesn't look great, and he was forcing the ball into Justin Jefferson. They talk so highly of each other, and sometimes when you talk so highly of somebody, you look for them when they're not there. 3 interceptions, and had the 4th one negated by penalty. All 3 of those interceptions were when he was trying to find Justin Jefferson, and 2 were in the red zone. Rushing offense 16th in the league, 120.2 yards per game. Red zone offense 19th at 53.3%. Third down offense 10th at 40.2%. Their passing defense is 26th. They allowed 231.9 yards per game through the air. Not very good, but Troy's explained, why that is. And their rush defense second in the league at 79 yards per game. So, we see it with the Ravens too. They allow the most passing yards in the league and the least rushing yards in the league. And this is similar here with the Vikings. Red zone defense, 25th. They allow touchdowns 63.6% of the time, and their third down defense is 8th. They allow conversions just 33.6% of the time. Coming off the 12-7 victory at Jacksonville, that saw them completely dominate the game but not cover the touchdown. So we already talked about those stats. Justin Jefferson caught 5 balls for 48 yards. Of course, he was targeted a bunch of times when there was interceptions. But Minnesota ran 82 plays compared to Jacksonville's 43, as we talked about. Held the ball for 42-19, Jacksonville 17-41. 28 first downs to Jacksonville's 10. They ran 39 plays in Jaguars territory. And that's unbelievable because they got 9 points in 5 red zone attempts. And I think there's something. I just think it's Darnold. He's just, as much as we want to romanticize how good he's been this year, we kind of know who he really is. In the second game of the season, TJ Hawkinson led the Vikings with 8 catches for 72 yards. Josh Oliver was next, 4 for 52. Aaron Jones ran 17 times for 88 yards, caught 2 passes for 13 yards. He missed part of the game after suffering a rib injury. He missed a quarter of the game. He underwent x-rays, and they returned negative. But he says it's all about pain tolerance. Pain tolerance. Is that what you want your running back to be talking about here before a game? Pain tolerance? The defense was excellent. Held the Jaguars to 143 total yards, 3.3 yards per play, and the pass rush, 3 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, and Byron Murphy and Cameron Bynum had picks. When we talk about these Tennessee Titans, I just find them such a tricky cap, and I just don't want anything to do with them. Tony Pollard's going to run for 1,000 yards. Calvin Ridley's now WR1. I don't know if Hopkins was an issue for him, but now he's looking like a WR1. Caught 5 for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. The passing offense, second last in the league at 169.2 yards per game. But Levis, I think, will figure things out. And maybe I'm putting too much onus on what he did in those 7-game sample size last year. Rushing offense, 10th at 126.3 yards per game. Red zone offense, 25th. They only get touchdowns 50% of the time. Their third down offense, 3rd worst in the league, converting 32.7% of the time. Pass defense, 1st. 156.7 yards allowed per game. Rush defense 13th at 116.9. Red zone defense 26th. They're terrible. They allowed touchdowns 64.3% of the time, but their third down defense is 4th, 32.1% conversion rate. Coming off that 27-17 loss of the Chargers, they are only outgained by 20 yards in that loss. Levis came back, AC joint sprain in his right shoulder, missed 3 games. He watched, and he looked much better. 18-23 for 175 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He did fumble and was fortunate not to lose it. The offensive line struggled, though. Levis was sacked 7 times. Tyjae Spears back, and him and Tony Pollard look great. They combined for 16 carries for 91 yards, 7 catches for 23 yards. But the Titans just 3-9 on third down and 1-3 in the red zone, which is what they've done all year long. And the pass rush struggles, man. This pass rush is invisible. 0 sacks, 2 quarterback hits. L'Jarius Sneed missed his 4th straight game with a quad injury, but he had terrible numbers before he left. So it's Darrell Baker, Jarvis Brownlee, Roger McCreary getting the snaps for the Titans. Take it away for us here, Troy. Vikings, Titans.
Yeah, and I think the key in this game, the first thing I couldn't wait to look into is what we're seeing with Sam Darnold finally coming back into balance after just a great start to the season, the best start of his career. We thought he was on a different trajectory, just needed new coaching, new team, new player, great weapons around him, but that does not seem like it's going to be the case, does it? Uh, sure, he's not as bad as we perceived prior to the season beginning, but he's certainly not as good as he performed early in the season. Especially when you look at what he did against the Jaguars, 3 interceptions, 0 for 5 in the red zone. And once again, if you omit the dig routes from his repertoire, the 10 to 20 yard depth, right? His numbers are god awful, like literally terrible. Worse than the NFL outside of the numbers. Barely throws the ball outside of the numbers. Just wants to throw these digs on just wants to throw it over the middle of the field essentially, and that's where you can get in trouble, especially versus a team like the Titans, who I think have pretty good coverage. And the more you talked about this game, the more I started leaning toward the under. I seen Dennis Garcia in the chat talking about this total's a tick too high. I kind of agree with that because I think both defenses kind of have a pretty good matchup. The Vikings defense we know is legit, probably the best scheme, just schematically, the best defense in the NFL. I love the blitz or drop 8 scheme. It's just well done, and it masks a lot of the issues with the talent on the roster because there's not a lot of just top end talent on this defensive roster, but they're certainly putting together a top end type of season. And they get to go against Will Levis, who, we don't know who he is, but we know that so far in the sample size we do have Will Levis, he's absolutely terrible under pressure. He has a bad offensive line. He's not going to be able to run the ball effectively in this matchup. Like, I didn't believe in their output that they did rushing the ball against the Chargers. I mean, it's hard to say. It's a 1-game sample size. I mean, it was pretty impressive what they were able to do on the ground. But are they going to be able to do it against the Vikings? I just don't know. I can't see it happening. And I'd have to imagine the Vikings are somewhat embarrassed, even though they came out of Jacksonville with a win, probably a little bit embarrassed after that performance. And usually a spot you'd like to bet on a coach like O'Connell and Flores to right the ship. So I kind of went back and forth on this game. It's probably not a game I'm going to be betting on. I mean, I'm definitely looking at the Tennessee Titans number. Like, is this going to come down below the 6? Because then my hand will be forced. I'll be betting the Titans. But at this point, I think where the number currently sits, I would be on the under because I don't see a path to success for either offense with any reasonable certainty. So how are they going to generate enough yards in this game to get over this number? I don't see it. The low total is giving me a little bit of an indicator it's going under.
Yeah, I like the under as well. My only concern is both red zone defenses have been so weak, but the idea would be that the red zone offenses are as weak, basically.
Correct.
Not quite, but yeah, I think this is an under as well. I do. Levis has been talking about not reaching, keeping composed and not forcing plays and not taking risks, especially across the field. And if he's going to take a risk, it's going to be 35 yards down the field, 40 yards down the field. And I expect him to be better here, but better for Will Levis would be another game like last week where he's moving the ball, struggling in the red zone, but not making mistakes. Yeah, I think the under makes a ton of sense here. I think it makes a ton of sense. I want it. I'm going to put asterisks beside it. I expect to move on it here after the show. But I don't want to side here. I do think it's a buy low spot on the Vikings. But I don't want to buy them low. Especially with Aaron Jones dealing with a rib injury. Right. It's not appealing to me. Buying low on a road favorite that's sitting here as 6-point favorites. I mean, that's what kind of buy low is that? That sounds terrible. So, but I think the under makes a lot of sense. I think Dennis is on the right track, and I hope that I get paid rolling with him. So that's my plan, is the under. Anything for you at this point, or we move on?
No, I'm looking at this under as we go here. I might be on it by the end of the show.
Let's roll on. Next up, 1 p.m. Eastern with the Las Vegas Raiders, 2-7, 1-4 on the road. Miami Dolphins, 3-6, 1-3 at home. We're at Hard Rock Stadium, Miami Gardens, Florida. 79 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 14-mile-per-hour winds. Let's get into the line history here for this one. We have the Dolphins -7.5 at a pick'em. This opened up at the book I'm looking at an hour and 20 minutes ago. So there's been no movement. If we look at let's see what Will Hill has done with this one here. If it's any different, Will Hill has it at a pick'em at 7.5 as well. But this opened up at 7.5, dropped down to 7, got up to 8. So this has been all over the place, and now it's right back from Wentz. So not much going on here. The 7.5 is what we see at a pick'em. When we get to the total here in this one, we have the 44 also as a pick'em. Again, this at the book I'm looking at came out an hour and 20 minutes ago. If you look at Will Hill, the look ahead was 45. So this got up to 45.5 on Sunday morning. And then it dropped, got up to 46, dropped again. Right now, it's just a half-point move towards the under. When we take a look at the cash flow for Raiders, Dolphins, we have 40% of the tickets and 46% of the cash on the Raiders, 25% of the tickets and 75% of cash on the under. It was a eventful bye week for the Raiders, and we'll talk about that in a second. We also are expecting wind, and I know Hard Rock doesn't get too affected by it, but 14-mile-per-hour winds. Passing offense, 18th in the league for the Raiders. They put up 203.3 yards per game. Their rushing offense has been horrific. 32nd in the league, last 76.9 yards per game. Red zone offense is 11th at 59.1%, but I don't know how you trust any of these stats that are positive with the questions at quarterback. Third down offense, 27th at 33.6%. Passing defense is 11th, 195.1 yards per game they allow through the air. Rush defense, 22nd, 129.9. Their red zone defense been a problem all year, 27th in the league. They allow touchdowns 64.7% of the time. Their third down defense has been weak, 20th, allowing conversions 38.6% of the time. But they come in off their bye week. They were last seen losing their fifth straight game, 41-24 at Cincinnati. The Raiders are one of 10 teams in the NFL history to trail by double digits in each and every one of their first 9 games of a season. I mean, that's pretty impressive, that futility. The 1986 Colts and the 1986 Packers. That was the most recent teams to do it. After the game, Luke Getsy, assistant coach, and James Craig and Rich Scangarello were fired. So during the bye week, they added Norv Turner to the coaching staff as a senior advisor. They named his son Scott Turner as the interim offensive coordinator and Joe Philbin as interim offensive line coach. Norv Turner is back for a second stint with the Raiders after serving as a head coach in 04-05. And Scott Turner, of course, taking over for Getsy. He was the pass game coordinator with the Raiders. Philbin joined the Raiders this season as a senior offensive assistant, and he replaces Craig. So this Raiders team is just hampered by this league worst rush attack. They average 76.9 yards per game on the ground. The top 3 running backs in the NFL all have more yards rushing than Las Vegas. And you know who's on that list? Josh Jacobs, who you didn't want. 762 yards rushing. Josh Jacobs has run for more yards than the entire Las Vegas Raiders. For the third time in 7 starts, Minshew was benched. This time, Desmond Ridder comes in. I don't know how you can trust Desmond Ridder. 11-16 for 74 yards, touchdown. He lost a fumble. Minshew has turned the ball over 12 times, 8 interceptions and 4 fumbles, 67% completion rate, 1,500 yards, 6.8 yards per attempt and 6 touchdowns. Aiden O'Connell, of course, with the broken thumb, won't be eligible to return until week 13. Jacoby Myers looks good. Caught 8 passes for 105 yards. So in the 2 games that Devontae Adams has been gone for, Jacoby Myers has stepped up as a number 1. 14 receptions, 157 yards in those 2 games. The offensive line has been hit so hard. You have Cody Whitehair, Colton Miller, and Andrews Pete all went down with ankle injuries against Cincinnati. And Andre James, their center, didn't even play because of an ankle injury. So have to find out with the injury report tomorrow, the best injury report that we get on Wednesdays, if what's going on with that offensive line, because they're all listed as questionable here. This Vegas team allows 27.9 points per game. There's only 3 teams worse than them. Let's talk about these Dolphins. What a big win last night. Short week after snapping their 3-game losing streak with a 23-15 win at the Rams on Monday night. You were all over them. Troy, it was excellent work. Passing offense, we don't need to know the stats for it. But the interesting thing is, though, that their passing offense is 25th in the league on the season at 188.8 yards per game. These last 3 games with Tua, it's just 207. So it's just 19 yards more than what they've been doing. It's not a world of difference. I mean, visually it looks like a world of difference, but statistically might not be. Rushing offense, 9th in the league, 126.4 yards per game. Their red zone offense is 23rd this year at 52%, but the last 3 games with Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback, they're 7th in the league. They've scored touchdowns on 72.7% of red zone attempts, and I think that's what we should expect, from Tua and this offense. Except Tyreek is just missing in action. Third down offense, 11th, 40.2% of the time they convert. Their pass defense, 8th, 191.3. Rush defense, 12th, 114.4. Their defense has improved heavily. Their red zone defense, 11th, allowing touchdowns 50% of the time. And their third down defense, 3rd. They allow conversions just 32% of the time. And they were number 1 for a lot of the year. The offense struggled. Just 238 total yards against an average Rams defense. Tagovailoa, 28 for 207 yards, touchdown, a pick. He also lost a fumble. Jalen Waddle had 3 for 57. Jonnu Smith, 3 for 45. And Tyreek Hill held the 3 catches for 16 yards, in a spotlight standalone game. No, he did score a touchdown. Achane had a quiet game as well, ran 12 times for 37 yards, caught 5 for 15. The defense was strong throughout. Calais Campbell, what a monster he was. He was just a monster yesterday. The pass rush as a team combined for 4 sacks, 6 quarterback hits, held the Rams to 3 of 12 on third down, 0 of 3 in the red zone. Anthony Walker had an interception. Kendall Fuller is in concussion protocol. The reason why it's a bigger deal is because it's the second time this year he's been in protocol. So he may not get out of it in time to play. So keep an eye on whether or not Kendall Fuller is in the lineup for this one. Take it away for us here, Troy. Raiders, Dolphins at Hard Rock Stadium.
There's actually a lot to consider in this game. It's an interesting cap. I feel like what I had yesterday is the perfect read on this Dolphins defense, specifically against the Rams. I'm seeing a lot of things that I like about this defense that has a lot of talent. Obviously, they could apply pressure. I like how they're very aggressively conservative playing zone coverage. It's not like everyone else's zone coverage, and they have the talent, the personnel to do that with Hoyer, Ramsey, and Fuller. I think are 3 great defensive backs playing the cover 3 zone very, very well. And when they get Bradley Chubb back, there's a lot to be worried about, man. I think this defense is primed to keep taking massive steps forward. And this is definitely a game they're still fighting for playoffs. It's clear as day. They have 2 very easy games coming up, one against the Raiders, one against the Patriots. It's time to take care of business. And this looks like one of those Dolphins smash spots at home like we've seen in the past. I get it. Like, there's a huge rest disadvantage. They're traveling across country. The Raiders coming off a bye. I think about the Raiders team coming off a bye, a team that's absolutely heading nowhere with the toughest part of their schedule out ahead of them. They're 2-7 right now. They're definitely not going to the playoffs. Gardner Minshew's their quarterback. Over half of their defense hasn't been in the league more than 3 years. These kids are 22, 23 years old. What do you think they were doing? Do you think they were worrying about football, during their bye week? Probably not too much at this point in the season. And how competitive this team is. I think the hungrier team is clearly going to be the Dolphins, veteran team compared to this Raiders, this young defense. Obviously, they have Crosby, he's a stud, but they're bottom 5 on both offense and defense. They're weak against the run. They're weak against the pass. I think they have the worst secondary in the NFL. Dolphins are going to force Minshew probably into some turnovers. If they did that to Stafford and McVay, we could definitely expect some turnovers from Minshew. Situationally, I could see why you say it wouldn't look good for the Dolphins, but I'm overriding that with the matchup and with the motivation. And then you look at the Dolphins as home favorites of a touchdown or more, 6-3 ATS, 8-1 straight up, winning by 17 points on average. 3 of those games were by 21 or more. 5 of those games were by 14 or more. These are blowout type of spots when they're priced like this. But here's the thing: it's kind of weird because they haven't been priced in this range. And I've liked to attack the dogs in this range historically, but it's actually a little bit of an interesting situation. I bet the Broncos in a divisional game recently, just last week against Chiefs in this type of price range. I bet the Buccaneers in this price against the Chiefs, 8, 8.5, 9, right in this range, 7.5 to 9.5, right? But that game was ticking towards the over. This looks like it's headed in the other direction, and that's, again, favorable for the home team. It indicates there's going to be points from one side, not the other. I parlayed the Eagles-Dolphins money line. Talked about that earlier, minus 101. So here's the thing. I meant to get to this point about the price. We've never seen the Dolphins price in this range. It's a dog of 6, 7, and then there's a huge jump to 10 or more. So now it's in this middling range. This is my one concern, and why I haven't laid the numbers, because This range is typically one I like to fade ATS. But so that's why I haven't moved on the spread.
I get it. It's just that was a big game in Los Angeles that they needed. That was really tough in the trenches. Their offense didn't look very good, and now they're on a short week. No, so I want to fade the Raiders, and I've seen some books have moved it to 8. This would be, if I was, if my friend's financial future was on the line in this one, it's an easy back of the Dolphins here. And I get there, but it just doesn't feel right for some reason. It just doesn't feel right here with the
short week. Yeah, the short week is definitely playing into the equation for me.
Dougie Weiss says, what motivation do the Raiders have? And that's true, but Antonio Pierce gets his guys up for games, and they're playing for their jobs. So, but I hear what you were saying. There's not a ton. And with the new personnel coming in, I would like to fade it. But I'm hesitant. I'm going to put Dolphins up here. I mean, this is going to move towards the Dolphins, don't you think? Don't you think we see an 8.5 come game time?
Yeah, I think we see an 8.5, and if it's getting teased enough, you're going to see the 9.5, and if it gets the 9.5, I'd like it even more, to be honest. Even though I think 8's a key number nowadays.
Yeah, it's just the short week makes me uncomfortable. Do you have any feel on this total here, or do you want to move on?
No, I have no feel on this total. I was wondering if we might see a good double result number. I'm already seeing 9s in the market for the Dolphins game. Yeah, I'm going to be passing.
Yeah, the double result, I can understand for sure.
It's probably going to be around 160 now at 9.5. So
I'm still going to 7.5 pick them in lots of places, so that's no real concern. And then the double result, Dolphins minus 143.
143 since 160s.
All right. Yeah, let's roll on at this point. We've got a few days to work with this. And then, of course, we have our Cappers Contest show on Thursday when we go over all the games once again. We're going to roll on. Next up for us, 1 p.m. Eastern, the team that just lost to the Dolphins, the Los Angeles Rams, 4-5, 1-3 on the road at the New England Patriots, 3-7, 1-3 at home. We're at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. 58 Fahrenheit, mostly sunny, 12 miles per hour. Let's set this one up. We'll get into the line history here for this one. We have the Rams right now as 4.5 point favorites, 4.5. So this opened up a 4.5. Rams minus 109. They're now 4.5 minus 110. And when we get to the total here for this one, we have a 44 minus 111 to the under. Again, this just came out, about 2 hours ago. Let's get into the cash flow for the Rams Patriots. We have, give me a second here. Here we go. We have 59% of tickets, 53% of cash on the Rams, and 22% tickets, 42% of cash on the under. We have the Rams. Will start with their passing offense has been strong this year, despite the injuries to wide receivers, 8th in the league. They put up 234.6 yards per game. The rushing offense has been a bit of a problem. Even though Kyron Williams seems to be scoring touchdowns nonstop, they're still just putting up 94.1 yards per game on the ground. That's good for 26th in the league. Red zone offense, 30th, 46.9%. It's been a problem all year. I said that this would change when Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp came back, but did you see how awful they looked in the red zone against the Dolphins? Their third down offense, 25th in the league at 34.6%. Their passing defense, 22nd. Looks a little better of late, 219 yards per game. Their rush defense, 19th at 127.6 yards a game allowed on the road. Their red zone defense is 12th. They allow touchdowns 51.6% of the time. Their third down defense, 14th. They allow conversions 37.3% of the time. And that's what you see from the Rams, is just a real middling defense. They come in off an ugly 23-15 loss at home to the Fish. They didn't score a touchdown for only the 8th time in Sean McVay's 8 seasons. They didn't score an offensive touchdown for just the second time in 4 years when Stafford is in uniform. Stafford was 32 of 46 for 293 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Puka caught 9 for 98, and Cooper caught 7 for 80. It's funny that they had such big games because I don't remember them. And we had the live stream, and I guess that's part of the reason. Like I cashed the over 36.5 live, but I lost the live bet on the Rams plus 6.5. And I guess where were they? But they did put up some numbers. Kyron Williams ran 15 times for 62 yards, caught 5 passes for 20. He did lose a fumble. 3 of 12 on third down, 0 of 3 in the red zone. It's been crushing the Rams. Third down in red zone, crushing them. Now, the defense held their own, gave the Rams an opportunity to win, held the Dolphins to 238 total yards, 3 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. Christian Roseboom had an interception. Dolphins went 6 of 13 on third down and 2 of 3 in the red zone, and they won. Rob Havenstein was sidelined, but Joe Noteboom started his first game since the season opener. So now they want them both out there, but good to have Noteboom back. Let's talk about the Patriots here. Their passing offense, 32nd in the league. They only get 156.8 yards per game. Rushing offense, 22nd, 114.3. Red zone offense, 27th. Only get touchdowns 48.2% of the time. Third down offense, 26th, 34.6% conversion rate. That's what we expected from them. I did not think their defense would be this bad. Passing defense, 16th, 209 yards per game. Rush defense, 23rd. They allow 130.5 yards per game. Their red zone defense, 15th. They allow touchdowns 55.9% of the time. And their third down defense, 22nd. They allow conversions 41.3% of the time. They're coming off their most dominating win of the season, 19-3 at Chicago. They beat Caleb Williams into submission, sacked him 9 times, hit him 13 times, held him to 1.7 yards per pass. If we believe the Bears gave up on Caleb Williams and the offensive line gave up on Caleb Williams, is this the first opportunity since game 2 of the season where we could actually sell the Patriots high? They held the Bears to 1 of 14 on third down, offered them 1 failed attempt in the red zone, outgained the Bears 328 to 142. Drake May was 15 of 25 for 184 yards, touchdown, interception. He looked good. Austin Hooper led receivers with 3 catches for 64, and Demario Douglas caught 4 for 50, and Ramondre Stevenson had a good game with 20 carries for 74 yards. But they were just 1 of 5 in the red zone. It's going to cost them in important games. Now, there might not be any this year for them. Dietrich Wise was helped off the field in the final minute as well. And Kyle Duggar's missed 3 straight games with an ankle injury, an important safety. Dietrich Wise listed as questionable for this week. Is this a buy low opportunity on the Rams, or is this Rams team that we've watched on the road win 1 game this season shouldn't be this big of a favorite against anybody? Take it away, Troy. Rams, Patriots, in Foxborough.
I'm right there with you. I think that this is ideally a spot to fade the Patriots. Winning 2 of the last 3, Jets, Titans, and the Bears. They went to OT with the Titans. They probably should have won that game. And defensively, we know this defense is weak. They shut down the Bears, right? They're riding high and mighty. I don't know. And I don't really think it's a believable effort after what you said. Are the Bears just quitting, or is what we're seeing from their defense real? I doubt it. Drake May, though, he does add dimension, but only 1 touchdown, 2 picks in the last 3 games. He has a 7% turnover-worthy play rate in that time. Their offensive line is one of the worst in the league. Bottom 5, clearly, in both run block win rate, pass block win rate, PFF grade, all that. On the other hand, you got the Rams. The defense has continued to surge, and there was a reason I loved Mostert's under. And it was part of the reason was because, I thought that the rookie, the young guy was going to take his carries, take his usage. But also because I think this Rams defensive front, the front 7 has been great. Probably a little bit of an underrated secondary too at this point. They have a QB advantage. But if the Patriots can apply pressure, Stafford's been a statue. 2nd worst in the NFL. Just slightly behind from an efficiency standpoint. Just slightly behind our guy, Will Levis. 1 touchdown, 5 picks under pressure. He's becoming a statue with that old age, might be catching up to him. But they still have a QB advantage, I would say. They have a coaching advantage. They're coming off a loss, still in the playoff picture. It's a tough game, man. And then you look at Rams as road favorites over the last 3 seasons. They're 4-1 straight up and ATS. So, the books are kind of putting a line out there that's telling us what's going to happen. It does look very appealing, in my opinion, to take the Patriots. That's the side I was trying to get to in my analysis. But Stafford's clearly not the quarterback he once was. But I do think the Rams have a clear edge. I want to dig more into this matchup a little bit schematically because I look at the Patriots side. I haven't looked deep at them recently, but we know Stafford against cover 3, it's a problem. We've seen it yesterday. He did not look very confident with the ball like he usually looks in the pocket. But I will say that the sharp action, the bigger bets in this price range across the board on the spread, the money line, and the total has been 60% or better in all 3 of those categories. So the sharp action has really dictated the results in these in these games. And right now they're saying take the under. And I guess they're saying it's too early to read a side in this type of matchup. But I bet you the sharp action is going to be on the under. So I guess this is another one to be under a pass.
I think we should just bet the under. 44 is too high for this game.
I don't like seeing a lot of these 44s. That's a number that I want to see that move off that 44, and it's important which way it moves. We see a lot of them this week, a lot of 44.
But this one doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. Now, the Rams need to kind of wake up, but are they going to do that on a short week after a Monday nighter?
I'd like to see the Rams defense rush DVOA versus opponent quarterbacks, or how do they handle mobile quarterbacks in general? That would be a good look. And just looking across, they lost to Arizona 41-10. The Chicago Bears 24-18. I don't know if we consider him mobile necessarily. Yeah, I'm going to look into this. I want to look into the matchups.
I'm going to bet it. I'm going to bet as soon as this show's over. I just needed to get there and figure it out. It's too high. These red zone offenses, the Rams are the third worst red zone offense in the league. Now, we expect it to change with Puka and Cooper cutback, but that's not been happening. The Patriots red zone offense, even with Drake May at quarterback, is terrible. They're two bad red zone offenses, and both have pretty decent red zone defenses. You also have, teams that here with the third down offense, so not only are we talking about the terrible red zone offenses, but we have two of the worst third down offenses in the league. So these teams aren't going to get, convert third downs. They're not going to score touchdowns in the red zone. I should have got here on my own and already been on it, but I agree with Dennis. This is a great under. We have 12 mile per hour winds. I know that's not crazy, but it's going to be chilly, 58 Fahrenheit. I like it a lot. I'm on it. Going to bet as soon as the show's over. I expect this to be 42.5 come kickoff. We shall see. Anything for you here, Troy, before we move on? And I agree with the Rams, but I just don't want them on a short week as to cover by margin. I imagine they win this game. I mean, the highest scoring, again, these are scorecasting and we can be wrong, but I don't see how this is over. 23-20 is higher than I imagine the final score to be. But I'm going to move on the under as soon as it's over. You ready to move on, my man?
I'm ready to move on, but I definitely have it on my list.
1 p.m. Eastern, Cleveland Browns 2-7, 1-3 on the road at the New Orleans Saints, 3-7, 2-3 at home. We're at Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. I was certainly wrong about the Saints last week. And, the key is to be right more than you are wrong, and went 4-3 last week. But I was wrong about the Saints falling apart here after firing Dennis Allen, and we'll discuss that in a second. Let's get into line history. New Orleans -1 at -106. They opened up -2.5, so we've had a big move towards the Browns, which makes a lot of sense to me. Is this, like we talked about with the Patriots, a rare opportunity to sell the Saints high? Let's get into the total here for this one. We have the 44, like you were talking about, -111 to the over. This opened up at 44. It got juiced to the over up to -117 and it's come back. So no movement on the total. Let's get to the cash flow here for this Saints Browns spot. 15% of the tickets, 27% of the cash on the Browns plus the points. On the money line, 20% of the tickets, 12% of the cash. Famous Jameis is a tricky cap. And I've seen, and I think we've all seen maturity from him this year. Now he gets to go back to a place where he couldn't get the chance to roll. 71% of the tickets, 66% cash on the over. I wonder how big of a deal it is to him to go back to the Saints. I can't tell you that. I haven't heard from interviews yet. Passing offense for the Browns, 28th in the league. Rushing offense, 28th in the league. Those stats, will change. The passing offense will improve without Deshaun Watson. The rushing offense is supposed to improve with Chubb back. Red zone offense, 13th, 56.3%. They're rarely there. Their third down offense, worst in the league, at 32nd in the league at 28.7%. Passing defense, 13th in the league. They allow 205.7 yards per game. Rush defense, 14th. They allow 122.6 yards a game on the ground. The red zone defense, 24th. They allow touchdowns 63% of the time. These are bad stats for a Browns defense that we thought was going to be pretty good this year. But then their third down defense is second. It is second, 31.6% of the time. There's conversions. So Browns coming off their bye week. They were last seen in a Week 9, 27-10 home loss to the Chargers, and famous Jameis' second game as the starter. He went 26 of 46 for 235 yards, a touchdown, 3 interceptions. Stefanski has handed over the play calling duties to Ken Dorsey. We don't know. We don't know if he was forced to make that decision, if he did that on his own. I'd love if, I don't know. Amari Cooper traded. The Browns don't have a clear number one, but Cedric Tillman and Jerry Jeudy both look good against the Chargers, 75 and 73 yards respectively. Nick Chubb has struggled in his return from that devastating injury. He's now run in 3 games 42 times for 113 yards. That's 2.7 yards per carry. Myles Garrett at least ended that 4-game sack drought. He sacked Herbert 3 times, and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah will be on the IR until at least week 14. He's a big piece of this defense. Talk about the Saints here. Passing offense 16th. Rushing offense 13th. Kamara is, I never know when he's going to step up. Their red zone offense is 9th, 61.3%. Their third down offense 17th. They convert 38.2% of the time. It's their defense that's been the problem. They just allow so many yards. They allow 244.6 yards a game through the air. That's 29th in the league. They allow 141 yards per game on the ground. That's 27th in the league. Now, their red zone defense has been okay, 48.5%. That's 9th in the league. Better than okay, I guess. Third down defense 18th. Line conversions 37.8% of the time. So Darren Rizzi leads the Saints to a home victory over the Falcons. Shout out to Darren Rizzi. He's earned this opportunity. Derek Carr was 16 and 25 for 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, MVS, 3 catches for 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara ran 17 times for 55 yards, caught 5 for 54. The offense put up 7 yards per play. I did not see that coming. Now, they were still just 1 of 3 in the red zone. The defense bent but didn't break. They allowed 468 total yards to the Falcons. I didn't realize they had allowed that many. I guess you're caught up in the moment. I didn't realize that they were actually getting gashed like that. But the pass rush looked reinvigorated. 3 sacks, 9 quarterback hits. The Honey Badger had a pick. Pete Werner's dealing with a hand injury. We'll find out tomorrow how bad the hand injury is. He had to leave the game. Dougie Wise is leaning towards the Saints. I want the Browns. Are you going to talk me into betting the Browns here, Troy? Take it away, Brown Saints.
Well, you already know where my mind was at as soon as I started digging into this game. I wanted the Browns. Now, I did pump the brakes, and I took a serious dive into this game because I didn't want to move so quickly. The Saints, obviously, they had their dead cat bounce. They won outright as dogs against a divisional opponent. That was definitely a high moment. But, look at the results of that game. Look at the box score. If you physically watch that game, you're going to know what I'm talking about right here. They had 11 less first downs, 100 less total yards, 100 less rushing yards, 10 minutes less of time of possession. They won the yards per play, but if there's 2 passes to Marquez Valdez-Scantling for 110 yards, that is not reliable, not repeatable offense, especially against some DBs that we're going to see with the Browns this week. And it's not going to be zone coverage. These guys are going to be man-to-man, very sticky. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I don't feel like is going to do well with the physicality of the defensive backfield. So you take away those two plays for 110 yards. This looks a lot worse. Take one of them away, and it looks a lot worse. Not to mention Kohu missed 3 field goals. One of them got blocked. 2 of them were less than 50 yards. Definitely should be all-day types of field goals for the Saints team. I don't think that their win should be enough to justify this price. They had a perfect matchup last week. They had their dead cat bounce. I missed that type of situation. I thought this team would be left for dead type of situation. Obviously, watching your coach jump up and down when Kohu misses a field goal has to give you some type of inspiration, and that's what we've seen. This guy was animated on the sideline. It was awesome to watch. That's what you want to see out of your coach. You don't want to see a hard-ass coach that don't smile, don't frown. You want to see a coach that's very emotional and wants to win. You want to play for a guy like that. So I get it. They had their win, but I still don't think that this price is justifiable. The Falcons' pass rush, nowhere near comparable to the Browns, even without Za'Darius. The coverage scheme, not even close to comparable with the Browns. We're talking about 100% zone coverage versus 100% man coverage. You got the Winston return to New Orleans. who's also much better versus man coverage, and we know the Saints want to play man coverage. Now, do they throw a curveball and throw zone at Winston? Because they definitely, if anybody knows it, it's the Saints, that he could play. He's much better against man-to-man. But the Saints are also the worst run defense in the NFL. This is a perfect spot for your guy Chubb to get going. I think there's a lot of things adding up here. I moved on the Browns +1 -107.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. God, I'm not going to let that debacle against the Chargers get in the way. I'd like to join you on this. I imagine there'll be a lot of people who think we're nuts, but I'm going to join you. I'm going to join you on the Browns here. Browns +1 -107 for Troy. I'm going to move on this evening. Let's roll on. Next up for us, 1 p.m. Eastern, are the Indianapolis Colts 4-6, 1-4 on the road. The New York Jets 3-7, 2-2 at home. MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, 60 Fahrenheit, mostly sunny, 10-mile-per-hour winds. Let's get into the line history here for the Colts spot. We have a total of 44.5. It's juiced to the under at -112. There's been 5 cents of movement to the under since it dropped at this book. And on the spread, we have the Colts +4 at -112. They opened up +3. There has been a point move towards the New York Jets. The -3, just to give you an idea, opened up at -108, got up to -135 before they moved it to 4. The 4 is juiced to the Colts with a 1-point move towards the Jets. Let's get into the cash flow here for this spot. We have 71% of the tickets and 72% of the cash on the Jets, 77% of the tickets and 58% of cash on the over. I've wanted to bet the Jets so often this year. I finally got some money back from the losses 2 weeks ago, and I didn't take them against the Cardinals. I couldn't do it. I mean, going from dog to favorite is such a big move, and something stinks in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and I could not do it. Let's talk about the Colts first. They come off their third straight loss, 30-20 setback at home to the Bills. You know, Flacco has 6 turnovers in 2 starts since replacing the benched Anthony Richardson. I think you've got to let go of this idea with Flacco. You've invested too much into Anthony Richardson here, and you need to see what you have. Look, I thought that the move was fine too when Anthony Richardson called himself out, but now he's watched for 2 games. If I'm coaching here, I put Anthony Richardson at quarterback.
You know the situation is sorry, I missed the beginning. Is there a question mark at who's starting at quarterback?
Well, yeah. I mean, he hasn't said. I mean, he hasn't said it's Joe Flacco again this week, but he said that Joe Flacco is QB1. So, you know, but I'm telling you, it's a mistake. Even if Flacco gives you a better chance to win this game right here, you have to find out what you have in Anthony Richardson, especially after him watching for 2 weeks. Joe Flacco had the opportunity to take the job. He didn't do it. We'll see what decision is made. I want to know what decision's made. If they go with Anthony Richardson, I might be interested here. Gorky says it's Flacco till he says otherwise. Yeah, no, I feel that. And there's some expectation out there that he's going to say otherwise here tomorrow. Passing offense, 19th in the league, 198.3 yards per game. Rushing offense, 14th at 121.3. Red zone offense, 19th. Scoring touchdowns 53.3% of the time. Third down offense, 21st. They are converting third downs just 36.6% of the time. Passing defense, 27th. They allow 238.4 yards per game, and the rush defense 30th. They allow 148.3 yards per game on the ground. Their red zone defense 17th, 56.8% of the time. They're allowing touchdowns, and their third down defense is 27th. They allow conversions 44.3% of the time. The defense is being worse than we imagined here. The Colts coming up their third straight loss. Flacco 26-35 for 272 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Also lost a fumble. 1-3 is the Colts starter. Pittman missed his first game of the season with the back injury. Alec Pierce led receivers with 4 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown. Josh Downs caught 7 for 72, and Adonai Mitchell caught 6 for 71. Pittman is week to week right now. So the expectation right now is that he misses this game. We'll have to keep an eye on it. Jonathan Taylor ran 21 times for 114 yards, caught 2 for 8. Colts were 4 of 11 on third down, 2 of 4 in the red zone, but the defense just couldn't get enough stops. Bills went 9 of 17 on third and fourth down. The Colts did hold the Bills to 2 of 4 in the red zone. The pass rush finished with 2 sacks and 5 quarterback hits. And honestly, I was so interested in this football game. I was on the under, but I was so interested in it because, we'd heard Birdie's bullishness on the Colts, that Flacco lost them that football game in the first 10 minutes of the game. And you brought in the veteran to not do those sorts of things, not make those sorts of mistakes. EJ Speed and Kenny Moore had interceptions. The pass rush had 2 sacks, 5 quarterback hits. And the Colts had... Now, this is a part of the explanation, and what we got to keep an eye on is this Colts offensive line, because they had 3 rookie offensive linemen after Bernard Raymond left with the knee injury. Raymond's listed as questionable this week. I'm telling you, it looked like that. Flacco was being rushed and forced to rush against not a very good pass rush. Talk about the Jets. Passing offense 17th in the league, 211.7 yards per game. Their rushing offense is 30th. It still makes no sense to me. Absolutely, with Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, that you would have such a bad rushing offense. It's just a nuts. Red zone offense 24th in the league, 51.6%. God, I imagine this is Rodgers last year in the NFL. Third down offense, 9th in the league, 40.6%. Pass defense, 2nd. They only got 168.3 yards per game, but the rush defense has hurt them. 25th line, 134 yards per game. Their red zone defense, 18th. Third down defense, 17th. We thought this would be a much better defense than we've seen. They're coming off their 6 losses in 7 games. It was a horrific 31-6 setback at Arizona. Have they given up? Is this the same thing that we're talking about with the Bears? Ulbrich is 1-4 since replacing Robert Saleh. Woody Johnson has screwed this up, and it's not the first time Woody Johnson screwed something up with this football team. They were dominated in every facet of the game. Outgained 406 to 207. The Cardinals scored touchdowns on 4 of their first 5 drives, and it was over. It was just over. They were just walking after that. 7.1 yards per play. The Jets got 3.8. Rodgers was 22 of 35 for 151 yards, and he lost a fumble. Garrett Wilson caught 5 for 41. I hope Devontae Adams is happy. Got his wish. 6 catches for 31 yards. Breece Hall ran 10 for 52, caught 4 for 31. Jets were 0-3 in the red zone. The defense was uninspiring. The Cards could get whatever they wanted. The Cardinals only had 7 third downs. They went 5 for 7 and 1 for 1 on fourth. They went 4 or 5 in the red zone. Kyler Murray completed a franchise record 17 passes in a row at one point. Pass rush was nowhere to be found. 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits. CJ Mosley, they need him back, out with the neck injury. Brandon Echols now is in concussion protocol. Tyron Smith left with a neck injury. Are any of these guys going to want to come back or want to rush back to help their football team? And the answer is no. But the line's moving towards the Jets. We've seen this nonstop all year. And I didn't fall for it last week for the first time. I want AR. I want Anthony Richardson in quarterback. I know it's questionable to trust his character, but I love when a quarterback watches for 2 weeks. And we just saw Will Levis look much better after watching for 3 weeks. Take it away, Troy. Fascinating one, Colts Jets.
This is a fascinating one because I just signed a contract with my wife that says I will not bet the Jets again for the rest of the season. And so far, sticking to these contracts, I got them hanging up here on my wall. And there's 3 of them now. There's 3 of them now. One of them has to do with live betting. One of them has to do with the Jets. And the other one has to do with the playoffs. In all sports. But anyways, I'm done betting the Jets. This is only a one-way ticket for me because I'm definitely not betting the Jets. They're not in the type of shape that you want to be betting on a team. Completely embarrassed by this Arizona team. The defense is so unrecognizable from what we've seen, their performance over the past few years. It's just night and day. And I've talked about my dismay for this Colts team as well. And that's why I liked Buffalo last week, the quarterback. They really do not have good options. Specifically with, I think the decision was made to move the Flacco because obviously they're still in playoff contention. And he at least has the ability to drive the ball downfield to a certain extent. And that's kind of starting to regress more and more because Flacco's immobility and his influence on the run game is holding this team back. The efficiency numbers in the running game, EPA per play with Flacco in and Flacco out, or AR in, is completely different. But you got AR, you got Richardson, who's unable to make a pass that's not 50 yards down the field. It kind of ties their hands. I don't know what Steichen's going to do, but hopefully this is the first good decision he's made all season because I feel like he's just does not have this team buttoned up. offensively. He puts them in bad situations, game in and game out. But, looking at this market, it's really hard not to like the Colts. So right now, the book I like to look at for lines and the ones I track, this is not a good situation for the Jets. And it's like, I guess you could ask me, like, isn't this market a lot like the Commanders and Eagles game? No, it's not, because it's not in division and the total is below the Mason-Dixon. And that's completely flips the scripts in terms of the result we expect from that type of market. But at the end of the day, the Jets are dead. They're playing for nothing. They have a veteran team, which I do not think is like when you have a bunch of young guys, they're playing for contracts. They're playing for their reputation. When a lot of these guys on the Jets, they already have their reputation. They're good. They have a terrible team that's just not clicking on any cylinders. And this is just clearly a culture pass spot. And I'm with you. If we get Anthony Richardson announced in and we're catching 3 and a hook, I'll take it. I'll fall on my own sword in that situation. And I'm definitely contractually obligated not to bet the Jets. So, yeah, I'm looking towards the Colts.
Same here. And now Sebastian says they moved to Flacco for non-football reasons. There's stuff behind the scenes that's clearly suggesting that. And you're right. And if Flacco's at quarterback, then we know it's all character issues. So I would like to see how this bangs out. But again, if it was just wake up Anthony Richardson, it was a slap in his face. He understands this isn't this can be everything can be taken away from him. Sometimes a quarterback needs to know that. And we'll have to see here. But if they go back to AR, I'll be on the Colts. If it's Flacco versus Aaron Rodgers, I'm not on the game. Maybe you parlay both quarterbacks to have an interception. It doesn't appeal to me from a betting standpoint. But if AR is in, I'm going to be on the Colts.
I second that notion.
So we'll see. And I've never said that before because I've not liked AR, but I like the slap in the face. I like sitting down watching for 2 weeks, and I like when they watch poor quarterback play too. So they see mistakes and they see that, I would have done this differently. Maybe when I have the opportunity, I can do this differently. I like that. When they watch really smooth, strong quarterback play, that they start questioning their own abilities, and then they won't have the opportunity and things of that nature. So,
but another thing to like about Anthony Richardson being in this game is the run game for the Colts. It's clear as day, Jim. Like the yards per carry, EPA, all that on the ground for the Colts goes significantly up.
Well, even the red zone, and I know that Anthony Richardson can't make the short pass, but he's a tough guy to stop when he's running at you, and when he's going sideline to sideline running, when he cuts, in, that's a big man, and he's run right. We've watched him run right through defenders. So we'll see. So yeah, I'm with it. AR in. I bet the Colts. And then tell me you didn't just say that, just questioning how this line could possibly be moving towards the Jets. And it just seems to happen every week. So,
well, this is actually a line that I would actually have to believe that it's going to come back the other way. I really do, because you're seeing a 3 that's juiced to a price that I've never seen it juiced to. The money line is minus 192 right now. And we've never seen a 3 above a 190 ever. And usually when you see something like that, it's an indicator that it's going to come back the other way. Because I see 4s at other books.
Yeah, it's a really fun game to cap. It might not be a fun game to have money on and to be watching Flacco and Aaron Rodgers go head-to-head. But if AR's in, I'm in. Let's move on. 1 p.m. Eastern, we have the Baltimore Ravens 7-3, 3-2 on the road. The Pittsburgh Steelers 7-2, 3-1 at home at Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Let's get into the line of history for this division battle. I can't wait. I love when these two teams face each other. Right now, Baltimore is -3 and -114. That's taken 5 cents of cash. This did get up to -127 pretty quickly. That was, Sunday night, just before midnight. This got up to -127. It's come back to -114. Now, we know that home dogs have been losing badly this season. But we also know that those aren't home dogs coached by Mike Tomlin. And that's going to be the problem that I'm sure we'll hear Troy discuss. From a total standpoint here, there's a 48, under 48 minus 113. This went from 47.5 to 48.5. When I talked about the Steelers Commanders game with my mom, I was like, look, you don't need to cap this. This is just Tomlin's wheelhouse. And when it's in Tomlin's wheelhouse, if you bet it every single time, your bankroll is going to be much fatter than it was. Now, can we simplify it against a team as good as the Ravens? Because I told you before we got here, I want the Steelers. But let's talk it out. 54 Fahrenheit, cloudy, 6 miles per hour at Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We know that this is juiced here towards the Ravens, and this total is at 48.5, which is a high total. But you watch the Ravens play football, you understand why it's high. This started moving towards the under, and then it got pounded back up to the over. Let's take a look at the cash flow here for this spot. We have 44% of the tickets and 33% of the cash on the Ravens, which surprises me. 56% of the tickets, 67% of cash on the Steelers. And then you have 58% of tickets, 58% cash on the under. And Truth Teller says Ravens are the pocket aces, Jimmy. You know what? Yeah, it was a real easy fade against them with the Bengals. Do you want the Ravens to cover by margin? Now, you could say 3's not margin. That's fair. I can understand that the Ravens are pocket aces, but their defense is so questionable that I don't know how often I'm going to want them. And when the game is the most important game of the season, I don't know if I want to want them. Now, their offense spectacular. Lamar Jackson spectacular. Passing offense, third in the league, 257.6 yards per game. Truth Teller says, you really think they're going to get beat by Wilson? Are the Steelers worse than the Bengals? Truth? Rushing offense for the Ravens, first, 182.6 yards per game. Red zone offense, first, 76.7%. Third down offense, fourth, 47.2%. Their pass defense is the worst in the league. They're almost allowing 300 yards per game now, 294.9. Their third down defense is third worst in the league. They allow conversions 46.7% of the time. And yes, Highsmith is out. We'll talk about that, Dougie. Rush defense is first, but their red zone defense is 20th. They come in off extra rest and prep. That's helpful after a wild 35-34 win at home over the Bengals on Thursday night. Lamar Jackson, 25 of 33 for 290 yards, 4 touchdowns. 3 of those touchdowns came in the fourth quarter. I mean, he's a monster. Baltimore had 231 of their total yards in the fourth quarter. 231 of 389 in the fourth quarter. Tylan Wallace caught 3 passes for 115 yards, touchdown. Mark Andrews caught 6 for 68 in the touchdown. Derrick Henry ran 16 times for 68 yards in the touchdown. Ravens went 7-12 on third down. They were a perfect 4-4 in the red zone. But their defense got gashed for 470 total yards. The Bengals went 8 of 16 on third down. The Bengals went 3 of 3 in the red zone. Now, Nnamdi Madubuike had all 3 of the Ravens sacks, and the pass rush did combine for 13 hits. Now, what's going on with Kyle Hamilton? That's obviously a big piece. Ankle injury late in the first half. Harbaugh said the injury isn't serious. Right after the game, he said it's not serious, and we don't consider it serious. But he spent the weekend getting treatment for the ankle sprain, and we need to know what happened tomorrow. I mean, there's no way he's going to be full in practice. I mean, limited participant at the very most. Isaiah Likely also hasn't practiced at all since hurting his hamstring in week 9 in their win over the Broncos. So they have 3 more practices this week to see if Lively can practice in some capacity. He's only missed 1 game at this point. Talk about the Steelers here. Passing offense, 26th in the league, 188 yards per game. Rushing offense, 8th, 138.3 yards per game. Red zone offense, 25th. They only score touchdown 50% of the time, but it's better with Russell Wilson. Third down offense, 12th. They convert 40% of the time. Their passing defense, 19th. They allow 215.6 yards per game. Again, I mean, remember that number that the Ravens are allowing through 10 games. 294.9 yards per game through the air. The pass defense, 19th. Their rush defense, 4th for the Steelers. Their red zone defense, 4th at 44.4%. And their third down defense, 10th at 34.8%. The Steelers coming off their 4th straight win, 28-27 at Washington. Last 3 victories come with Russell Wilson at quarterback, 14-28, 195 yards, 3 touchdowns. Did throw his first pick of the season. George Pickens led receivers with 5 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Warren ran 14 times for 66, caught 2 for 29, did lose a fumble. Najee Harris ran 21 for 53 and a touchdown. The Steelers dominated time of possession, 36-11 to 23-49. held the Commanders to 5 of 14 on third down, just 242 total yards. Commanders were perfect in the red zone, though, 3 for 3. Pass rush had 3 sacks, 6 quarterback hits. TJ Watt has now not recorded a sack in 3 of his last 4 games. He didn't record a single tackle on Sunday. He didn't have a statistic on Sunday. Highsmith on crutches. He's doubtful. We're gonna get better idea here shortly. Dante Jackson got hurt in the second half. He's got a hamstring injury. He's listed as questionable. Nick Herbig is going to return to action this Sunday. It's not 100%, but it's extremely likely. They all are expecting him back. He has missed 4 games due to a hamstring injury. Take it away for us here, Troy. Ravens, Steelers.
Man, this is a game I'm going back and forth with because the Steelers team has been so good to me, but so has this price range for the road favorite. I mean, I've talked about it. Home dog, opening and closing, 3.5 in division, high total. All these things are adding up to an ideal situation. And it really has become an auto bet. It forced my hand. I have to bet the Ravens in this spot. And the Steelers, I mean, there's a lot to like about this team. There's a lot to like about them. They dominated that game against Washington. If you look at the box score, and there's some things that happened, right? I talked about the first downs, the third down, fourth down plays, yards per play, all that. They dominated that game. If not for the drop fake punt, which was a great call in their own freaking 15-yard line, and that fumble on the 1-yard line, this would have been a completely different game. We probably would be looking at a much more favorable number as Ravens backers, but we probably wouldn't be getting the number that we are getting right now too. They exposed Jaden Daniels. And Russell, how can you not like what you've seen? Only 1 turnover-worthy play in 3 games. He's grading out way better than he has in any of the seasons, past 4 or 5 seasons, at least since 2021. There's a lot of reasons to like this team, and I've been a Steelers supporter. But on the other hand, you have the Ravens, who are probably the best offense I've ever seen. They have all the necessary pieces, the mobile quarterback. Probably, how do you defend the most dynamic rushing duo in NFL history with Lamar Jackson, King Henry, plethora of weapons at receiver, and Lamar, the best QB in the NFL under pressure. So this pass rush, I think Herbig being in the game is much needed for this team. He's a great player. He's definitely an up-and-comer. But Lamar under pressure this year, 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 2% turnover-worthy play. All those marks are the best in the NFL. And the Ravens currently grade out as the best run D in the NFL. And if they could play 2 high safety, cover 2, and defend the run with 7 players, this game's going to be over pretty quick. I can't imagine the Steelers' offense are going to be able to keep up with this Baltimore scoring output. I faded the Ravens successfully last week because Joe Burrow. This is a different situation. You got Joe Burrow, who's a passer, high IQ, death by 1,000 cuts, could do it deep, could do it short, intermediate. This is not the same offense we're going to be seeing. Definitely not the case, not the situation. This is the Steelers, who are number 2 in the NFL in rush play percentage. They're going to be looking to run the ball. That's where that's where their DNA is. And I get it. It's a Tomlin rah-rah spot. Lamar, the history of Lamar in Pittsburgh doesn't look very good, but it's not enough for me this week. I am putting way more emphasis on where this line currently sits. And, the Steelers as a single-digit home dog, I talked about them as a road dog, very profitable, almost undefeated over the past few seasons. But as a home dog, they're just 4-3 ATS. And road favorites of 3 or 3.5 in division, 8-3 ATS, 9-2 on the money line, winning by 10 points on average. This trend only gets better the higher the total gets, and we're looking at the highest total that we've ever seen in a Steelers home game when they're single-digit home dog. And, I'm on the Ravens. I bet it at -115. I'm considering a money line parlay as well. Wow, Spenny Pistons win. Get the fuck out of here.
Nice one. So Ravens -3, -115 here. Truth teller, loving what you're on. I am going to hold off. No need to rush to go up against it here. And
it's not going to go very far, Jim. I mean, you can get a 3.5 right now, probably somewhere in the market. But I mean, you're probably going to be looking at 3.25 pretty much all week.
I'm very interested. Would you agree with this total dipping at first and now climbing back up? It looks like it could get up to 48.5, 49.
Yeah, I have no thoughts on the total. This is if you're betting an under or an over, it'd be a team total situation. I have 50-50 It's a 50-50 on the game total. But obviously the road team is carrying a lot of that weight. I got the home team scoring 18 points in this market history.
Yeah, the marquee games in the NFL this week, and there's a monstrous one coming up in Buffalo. I don't feel forced to bet. I've never been that way. I enjoy capping a bump fight as much as a marquee game. So I'm going to sit with this a little more. Troy on the Ravens -3. Before we move on, it's a huge night for fighting here at Pub Sports Radio. Preston Ekdahl just filmed the Tyson Paul breakdown that's on our YouTube page as we speak. Talking Hands, Tyson Paul. And then we have UFC 309 Locker Room Podcast premiering right after this show. So very exciting week of fights here on Pub Sports Radio. Let's roll on. Next up for us, 4:05 p.m. Eastern. We have, I blew past it. 4:05 p.m. Eastern, Atlanta Falcons, 6-4, 3-1 on the road at the Denver Broncos, 5-5, 2-2 at home Empire Field, Mile High, Denver, Colorado, 51 Fahrenheit, sunny, 6 miles per hour. Pretty late in the year, and we've had no bad weather situations thus far. They're coming, not this week, though. This total's at 44. It's -109 to the over. Opened up -106 to the over. We had 3 cents of movement towards the over. On the spread, we have the Broncos right now, twos. There's 2.5s. Right now, this opened up -1 at -108, and they've kept it at -1, I guess, just to show the progression of the line. At -1, it's now -123. So there has been 15 cents of movement towards the Denver Broncos. Let's get to the the cash flow here for the Broncos spot. Take me a second here to get down to it. We have 36% of the tickets and 46% of the cash on the Broncos, 22% of tickets and 40% of cash on the under. This is a tricky football game for me. We'll start with the Falcons' 5th passing attack, 250.4 yards per game, 12th on the ground, 124.7. Red zone offense, 15th, 54.8%. Touchdown rate, third down offense, 18th, converting 38.1% of the time. That's not the problem. The problem is defense. Their pass defense, they allow 223.4 yards per game. That's 24th. Rush defense is 20th, allowing 129.4 yards per game. Their third down defense is 28th in the league. They allow conversions 45.4% of the time. And the red zone defense is middling, 16th, allowing touchdowns 56.3% of the time. They come in off an ugly 2017 loss at the Saints. Kirk Cousins was 23 of 38 for 306 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. He fumbled twice. He was fortunate not to lose either of them. Drake London caught 8 for 97. Mooney caught 5 for 96. And Bijan, 20 carries for 116 and 2 touchdowns, caught 3 for 28. Falcons were 5 of 14 on third down, just 1 of 3 in the red zone. The pass rush did nothing. We've said this often on the show. The pass rush did nothing for the Falcons. I've said it so many times. 0 sacks, 1 quarterback hit, allowed Derek Carr without his top 2 receivers to pile up a season-high 269 yards passing. Falcons defense allowed the Saints to put up 7 yards per play. They lose defensive tackle Taquan Graham to a pectoral injury, and something that Troy's been talking about all the time. Troy Anderson re-aggravated his knee injury. He was gone when push came to shove. They needed him. So he missed 5 games. He came back, and a re-aggravating knee injury, I think he's going to be out for an extended period. I have no proof of that, and we'll find out more tomorrow. Let's talk about these Broncos. What a crazy 16-14 loss at Kansas City last week. Passing offense, 27, 186.6 yards per game. Their rushing offense, 20th, 117.1. They keep trying to find who is going to be the running back of this team. It looked like Beatty for a second until he got hurt, 5 or 6 weeks ago. Javonte then stepped up, and now he's fallen back. And now it's Estime who's getting the run here. It's important to have someone who can run the ball for this squad. Red zone offense, 21st, 53.1. Third down offense, 23rd, 35.6. We know this offense is a work in progress. The defense has been very good. Pass defense, 10th. They're allowing 192.2 yards per game. Their rush defense, 7th. They allow 103.5 yards per game. Their red zone defense is 4th. They're only allowing touchdowns 44.4% of the time. And their third down defense, 16th, allowing conversions 37.6% of the time. Their potential game-winning 35-yard field goal was blocked as time expired. I did watch it. 8 or 9 times. It was Andy Reid was saying how he saw something in the special teams, and I was like, I don't know if I believe him or not. I tried to see, but it was like it was going to be blocked 10 out of 10 times. Like how does that happen? I was trying to figure. There was 3 different guys that could have blocked that field goal. I mean, how does that happen?
It makes no sense. It makes no sense. A coaching thing. What did you see? What could you possibly see on the interior of your field goal unit?
I don't know. It was, but I watched over and over again. But how did the Broncos allow that to happen so easily? Again, 3 different guys could have blocked that kick. But Bo Nix was 22. And you know what? I also had to watch it over and over again to see how happy Mahomes was. I for whatever reason, I didn't like seeing how happy he was. I don't know why. And he was just like bouncing off of walls. He was ecstatic and euphoric, and I don't know. It all didn't sit right with me. Bo Nix was 22 of 30 for 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Cortland Sutton caught 4 for 70. Estime had 14 carries for 53 yards. The Broncos were 7 of 13 on third down, 1 of 2 in the red zone. The defense looked really strong. They held the Chiefs at home to 4.6 yards per play. The pass rush, 4 sacks, 9 quarterback hits. They held the Chiefs to 7 of 16 on third down, just 1 of 4 in the red zone. This is the healthiest team in the NFL, too. And that's important. That's very important. This is the healthiest team in the NFL. And then to add that, we've watched teams allow that last second, bomb. Let's talk about the Bears, and then falling apart. The Broncos are not going to fall apart. This is an up-and-coming team, regardless of whether they make the playoffs, whether they succeed here. So this isn't a team that's going to fall apart now, with Peyton running the ship. Take it away for us, Troy. Falcons, Broncos, and Mile High.
I'm currently looking for a way to play this game because I think I know what I want to do with it. The Falcons are coming off a game in many other dimensions. They win that game, and I'm up 8 units instead of 2 units with a little bit of cushion, feeling real good. Unfortunately, obviously, that's not the case. I think this Broncos team has been impressive. I backed both these teams this past week. In my ROI betting or fading this Broncos team, I'm 100% so far. Currently undefeated. They should have beat the KC Chiefs. It played out exactly how I expected it to. I know this offense did nothing the entire second half, but Bo put the drive together when push came to shove, and you got to give him credit for that. But both teams are in very similar situations, but there's a key difference in my opinion. Both teams coming off devastating losses to divisional opponents in games that came down to the absolute wire. The difference is the Broncos, they were big road dogs playing up a step against Kansas City, where the Falcons were big road favorites with an embarrassing loss. I think that favors the Falcons situationally. The matchup is really tough to read. I talked about the Falcons and how they were unlucky this last week, and they obviously have the offensive advantage in this game. The Broncos have the defensive advantage. In today's age in the NFL, I think you want to lean towards the offensive advantage more and have that in your pocket more frequently. But is that the case with the Falcons? What have they done versus good defenses? They've really only played 3 quality top-end defenses in the NFL. They had an unlucky loss to Kansas City where they had some offensive output, but Kansas City absolutely locked up their run. They were lucky to beat Philly, who they actually didn't fare out very well versus the run, and Pitt, who absolutely locked up the run. That was the first game of the season. So I don't know how much equity you want to put in that. But the defenses Atlanta has played the past 7 games, the Saints, the Bucks, the Panthers, the Cowboys, the Seahawks. I'm not just reading off the bottom of the list in EPA per play for defense, right? I mean, the Seahawks, they might be turning around, but who knows? But what I'm saying is I don't know how much belief I have in this Atlanta defense or offense to put up a high output against this Broncos defense. And on the other side of the ball, the Broncos, they've dominated bad defenses, and I think despite the issues the Falcons have had, this is more of a middling type of defense. God, I think talking it out, I'm starting to think about the under. And the problem is we're sitting at 44, and it's really hard to really have a lean at this number because I'm pretty sure it's going to move off it. And we'll see what happens with the total. But another issue with this matchup is the market, largely undecided. Out of conference in this price range, the road team usually puts money in your pocket. But there are a few things that could change that. The sharp action, the bigger bets, very efficient in this market, and how the total moves. I just talked about the 44. That's going to be key to my projected result in this game. So I do know that in any case, the Falcons make a profitable teaser leg. I was just playing with it as Jimmy is going through the cap. And I got a 2.5 right now. I'm trying to find who I'm going to tease the Falcons with, and I might even be on the side straight away.
It's a difficult cap. I can make legit arguments for either side.
Yeah.
When I can do that, I don't feel like one is that much stronger than the other. I do agree with you though that the Falcons are an angry group, and AOD saying Denver salty. I don't know. The Falcons are an embarrassed, angry group. Denver feels pretty good about what they just did and what they're going to be able to accomplish in the future. So I see it a little different. AOD says field goals galore. Tell me you didn't just say that. Says I think Browns Rams decent money line parlay. I'm off of this, and Troy leaning.
I'm moving on a teaser right now. Falcons Bengals teaser. Falcons Bengals teaser minus 120. You got plus 8.5 and plus 7.5.
Plus 8.5. And Bengals 8.5.
Bengals are the 7.5.
Okay.
Falcons are the 8.5.
Okay, you got it there.
Thank
All right, you are locked in. Teaser for Troy here. I like it. All right, let's roll on. This game is very near and dear to my heart. Twice a year, every year, 4:05 p.m. Eastern. The Seattle Seahawks 4-5, 2-1 on the road. I grew up in Vancouver, and Dave Craig and Steve Largent were our guys over there in Seattle. But my family's all from San Francisco. So, I was raised with San Francisco family, and I had to keep any kind of kind feelings for Steve Largent to a minimum. And I like when these teams play very much, and I cash unders when they play very often. But this Seahawks team is not a team you may want to trust in unders here. Dennis Garcia says this line is way short. How many times do you need to watch to know Seattle can't guard the 49ers? I feel like I'm seeing things real clear. And last week, not taking the Niners to cover in CMC's first game back, but taking the 49ers to win the division at plus 120, I think was a nice move. Now, it can still not come to cash, but I think it was a real nice move. I bet more on the future. It was more than a unit. And I feel good about the situation here. Let's talk about today's game, Levi Stadium, or this week's game, Levi Stadium, Santa Clara, California, 62 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 7-mile-per-hour winds. Let's get into the line history here for this one. The Niners minus 6.5. It opened up at 7 at minus 106. So we've gone, through that key number down to 6.5, slightly juiced towards the 49ers. Let's get into the total here for this one. The total is 49.5 minus 111. This total opened up at 48.5, and it got all the way up to 51.5. It was at 51.5 this morning, and it's down to 49.5. I don't know if I've ever seen a 50 between these two teams in my life. So let's get into the cash flow here for this one. 53% of the ticket, 61% of the cash on the 49ers, 61% of the ticket, 75% of the cash on the over. Start with the Seahawks. Their passing offense, 268.2 yards per game through the air. That's number one in the league. Their rushing offense, 27th at 91.2 yards per game. It doesn't make sense that the Seahawks and the Jets would have such weak run games. Their red zone offense for the Seahawks, not good. 22nd, 52.2%. Third down offense, 24th at 35.2%. Two stats that surprise me when you have such, when you put up so many yards through the air. Pass defense, 20th. They allow 218.1 yards per game. The rush defense, 26th. They allow 139.4 yards per game on the ground. The red zone defense, 14th. 54.3% of the time they allow touchdowns. And their third down defense is 15th. They allow conversions 37.4% of the time. They come in off their bye week. Last seen in a 26-20 overtime loss at home to the Rams in week 9. They went into their bye week having lost 5 of 6 for Mike McDonald. It was probably not a relaxing bye week for him. Their rushing game has been a monstrous problem. Against the Rams, they ran for 107 yards, but it took 33 carries to get there. That's 3.2 yards per rush. And don't forget, the reason why we cashed our double up on the Rams was because Kenneth Walker got stopped for no gain on consecutive plays in the first possession of overtime to set up the game-winning drive. Walker has 398 yards on 99 carries. He's averaging 56.9 yards per game. What the hell is going on? Now Jackson Smith-Njigba's being a monster. 7 catches for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns with DK Metcalf sidelined with the sprained knee. Mike McDonald said on Monday that Metcalf is practicing tomorrow. and he expects him to be good to go. Now, you have to see it's the MCL sprain in week 7, but he's expected to be good to go. He's expected to practice tomorrow. Geno Smith leads the NFL in passing yards and yards per game, 68.1% completion rate. He's gone over 360 yards in 2 games. He's gone over 300 in 2 more. But he's been sacked 28 times. It's the 4th most in the NFL. This offensive line has really struggled protecting him. The right tackle is just constantly changing. Abraham Lucas missed the first 9 games after knee surgery. George Fant went down in week 1. Michael Jarrell, a rookie, was forced into the starting role. Connor Williams is having the yips, man. He's having yips, snapping issues. It's been a real issue here. He's got to get his shit together. Seahawks defense 23rd in the NFL in yards allowed, 27th in rushing yards allowed. I mean, I understand. I completely understand why Dennis doesn't trust him. But Mike McDonald, this defensive mind coming off of a bye week and a 6.5-point spread, it's a lot to ask for after the 49ers' underwhelming 23-20 victory against an undermanned Buccaneers squad. Now, they outgained the Buccaneers 413 to 215, and that's important to know because a lot of people just look at that score and think, wow, that was a close game. Passing offense, 2nd in the league. So these are the 1st and 2nd for yards, passing offenses in the league. But the 49ers can run the ball despite not having CMC. 5th in league, 149.7 yards per game. Their red zone offense has been atrocious all year long. It's been really bad, and it's a real problem. 28th in the league, 47.4%. Third down offense, 7th, 43.5%. Their defense is being worse than we expected. Their third down defense is 24th. They allow conversions 43.1% of the time. Their red zone defense is 22nd. They allow touchdowns 60% of the time. That does not sound like the 49ers that we've been watching for the last few years. Rush defense 8th, 106.2 yards per game. Pass defense 12th, 197.4. Purdy was 25 of 36 for 353 yards and 2 touchdowns. CMC ran 13 times for 39, caught 6 for 68. Jawan Jennings had another monster game, led receivers with 7 catches for 93 yards. Ricky Pearsall caught 4 for 73 and a touchdown. This offense put up 6.8 yards per play, but the red zone issues continue. Just 1 of 3. The defense was strong. They held the Bucs to just 3.7 yards per play. Pass rush was quiet. 2 sacks, just those 2 quarterback hits. It's been happening quite often with this 49ers team, a quiet pass rush, something we're not used to. But they held the Bucs to 5 of 14 on third down and 2 of 4 in the red zone. Jake Moody's first game back from missing 3 weeks with a sprained ankle, and he went 3 of 6. He came into the game 13 of 14. We all saw Deebo Samuel exchanging words, appearing to shove Pepper, the long snapper. I didn't like it. I don't know how anyone could like it. It wasn't like he was going over there to motivate him. It was a very strange thing to see Deebo do that, and I don't know exactly. I'm still kind of formulating thoughts around it. Take it away for us here, Troy. NFC West, baby. Seahawks, Niners.
Wow. I'm finding some interesting things here as I'm digging through the database because I missed something earlier, but I got it now. The 49ers didn't deserve that sweat last week. I mean, that game profile more along the lines of a 10-point win than a 3-point win. They held Tampa Bay to under 3.4 yards per play. But that's because, what they play well against, the 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, these bigger sets, less receivers. That's what the 49ers are primed to beat, especially teams that utilize a tight end. You have Fred Warner, who just is complete lockdown in the middle of the defense. And they outgained the Bucs team by 200 yards. They were unlucky to only have won that game by 3. So if you're a Bucs backer, I feel bad for you. But we share the same sentiment with the upward, regression for San Francisco throughout the rest of the season. But even with CMC, the issues persisted. The bad special teams struggled. They struggled to close out a close game again, and they were bad in the red zone. And at the same time, we all know, like, if you've been listening to the show for 2 years or even over the past few weeks, my sentiment around this Seahawks team. Geno's mediocre at best, the bad offensive line, yada, yada, yada. But we liked what we've seen from the defense against the Rams, but now we got to discount that after what we've seen in Rams-Dolphins just yet last night. We have 2 teams that I perceive as being desperate. You have one team that's probably a little bit more desperate than Seattle Seahawks. It's a divisional game, and I found some interesting things in this divisional matchup. So the 49ers at home. The 49ers have the worst market move ATS number in the league, meaning when the market moves on the spread in 49ers home games, it's only 30%, and we're talking about 22 games now in the database, 49ers at home. So when the line moves away from them, like it has at Penny, They're 7-1 ATS, 7-1 straight up. And these games are blowouts. You look in division, it's the same situation. Overall, the fact that we're looking at this high total, the fact that the 49ers, and I think there's a lot of things lining up for the Niners in this spot. I don't want to do it, but I might have to put the 49ers in, and maybe I pair them with the Eagles and just start loading up.
But you sound still trepidatious about the margin.
Yeah, it's hard to get behind the 49ers at this number. I really wanted to make a case for the Seahawks. I was trying my ass off to make a case. And when you look in division, you cannot make a case with this current market. So I'm just going to hold off and consider this 49ers maybe as a parlay piece.
I think it's a buy low spot on the 49ers, and I don't want to pay for it right now. I like their division bet. I like them to win this football game and get me closer. But
yeah, the kitchen sink game for the Seahawks. I call it the Alamo spot. It's a rally the troops, all in type spot for the Seahawks. So,
and I got that plus. It went down to plus 120. I was looking at it that whole day last Tuesday, and it was plus 130. It went down to plus 120 when I bet it. It's still right there at plus 120. It has not changed despite the win in Tampa. You can get it right when I got it. The reason why is because the Cardinals are now plus 125. But, that's going to be a fun game. Okay, let's roll on here. Next up for us is the big one. 4:25 p.m. Eastern, Kansas City Chiefs 9-0, 4-0 on the road at the Buffalo Bills 8-2, 4-0 at home. We're at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York. 52 Fahrenheit, cloudy, 7 miles per hour winds. We've already heard from Ron Crawford. The NFL spreadsheet play of the day is the Buffalo Bills. Let's get into the line history here. This total is a 46. It's minus 112 to the over. This opened up at 46.5. It got down to 45.5. It's climbed back up to 46, and this is juiced to the over, so it's basically a 46.5 still. But there's a slight move towards the under. When we get to the point spread here for this giant football game in the AFC, the Bills are minus 2.5 and minus 102. They opened minus 2.5 and minus 106 at this book. So there's been a very slight 4-cent move towards the Kansas City Chiefs. When we get into the cash flow here, we have 78% of the tickets and 82% of the cash on the Chiefs on the spread. On the money line, it's very tight. 56% of the tickets and 49% of the cash on the Chiefs. On the total, 74% of the tickets and 61% cash on the over. Let's talk about the Chiefs here. Passing offense, 9th in the league, 231.6 yards per game. Rushing offense, 21st, 115.1 yards per game. Red zone offense, 17th, 54.3% of the time they're scoring touchdowns. Their third down offense is first. They convert 52% of the time. Their pass defense, 14th. They allow 206.7 yards per game. Their rush defense is third. They allow just 83.2 yards per game on the ground. Their red zone defense is 13th. 53.6% of the time they're allowing touchdowns, and their third down defense is 19th. They allow third down conversions 38.3% of the time. Ron Crawford says Chiefs can't beat them in the regular season. Says, listen to me on this one. The Chiefs come in off a wild 16-14 victory at home over the Broncos. We faded them back-to-back weeks and cashed on both. They blocked the Broncos' potential game-winning kick, 35-yard field goal as time expired. They became only the 5th Super Bowl champion to win their first 9 games the next season. They've matched the best start to a season in franchise history. Their 15-game win streak dating back to last season is the longest in the NFL. It's the longest since the Packers won 19 in a row from 2010 to 2011. Mahomes was 28-42 for 266 yards and a touchdown. Kareem Hunt had 14 carries for 35 yards, led the team with 7 catches for 65 yards. Now, Isaiah Pacheco has been designated to return from IR. He fractured his right fibula back on September 15th. It has already been said that when he returns, Kareem Hunt will be RB1. He will dominate the touches. Will that change? Pacheco will have to do something to make that change. I'm a little surprised that there was that hardcore, but it was. They made that clear. Juju Smith-Schuster has missed 3 straight games with a hamstring injury. They suffered October 20th at San Francisco. He's expected to be back this week as well. Against the Broncos, Travis Kelce caught 8 for 64 and a touchdown. My under 850 yards doesn't look so good. I might need a final game that's meaningless, that Kelce doesn't play. It doesn't. It's with Rashee Rice going down, with no Hollywood Brown. I thought maybe it would help the Hopkins coming in, but it's still he's now on pace to get slightly over it. The offense was just 7 of 16 on third down, just 1 of 4 in the red zone. The defense looked strong again, but they did allow the Broncos to go 7 of 13 on third down. The pass rush finished with 2 sacks and 5 quarterback hits. Let's talk about the Bills. Passing offense 13th in the league, 222.5 yards per game. Rushing offense 15th at 120.7. Red zone offense 7th in the league. They score touchdowns 62.8% of the time, while their third down offense is 14th. They convert 39.7% of the time. On defense, their pass defense, middling, 18th. They allow 212.9 yards per game. Their rush defense, middling. They're 15th. They allow 123.2 yards per game on the ground. The red zone defense has been good this year. They're 8th. They allow touchdowns 47.2% of the time, but their third down defense has not been good this year. 21st. They allow a conversion rate of 40%. Coming off their 5th straight win, 30-20 at Indianapolis. They've gone 30 or more in 4 straight. They're 8-2 for the first time since 1993. And that was their first time winning at Indianapolis since 1998. They're making everything look quite easy. Josh Allen was 22 of 37 for 280 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. He also ran 8 times for 50 yards and a touchdown. Amari Cooper and Keon Coleman both out with wrist injuries. Mac Hollins stepped up, led receivers with 4 catches for 86 yards. Khalil Shakur had 6 for 58. James Cook ran 19 times for 80 and a touchdown. This offense, whenever they needed it, they got it. 9 of 17 on third and fourth down. The defense was strong throughout, held the Colts to 4-13 on third down, 2 of 4 in the red zone. Pass rush had 4 sacks, 6 quarterback hits. Secondary picked Flacco off 3 times. Teron Johnson had a pick 6 right off the hop. Austin Johnson, Taylor Abbott each had interceptions. Now, they lost Dalton Kincaid to a knee injury. Now, he thought he could come back, and they let him come back. But then he realized he couldn't go. He said, I thought I could go, but just didn't feel good enough to run and be able to go out there and protect myself. You'll want to keep an eye on whether Dalton Kincaid's good to go. We'll get the first idea tomorrow with the Wednesday injury report. Here we go, Troy. The big one. These teams are combined 17-2 this year. Take it away, Chiefs, Bills.
I just feel like every time I talk about this Chiefs team, I sound like a broken record. So I guess I'll do it again. I kind of like it. Chiefs being priced like the best team that they were the past few weeks, being priced like the best team in the NFL, when in reality they're much closer to league average. Mahomes is having the worst season of his career. And it was a letdown spot after this whole season is after 2 Super Bowls and just absolutely dominant numbers he's been posting for years now in the NFL. It's about time he's coming back down to earth. That goes the same for Andy Reid. This is the worst offense in the Andy Reid era. The defense is legit, but certainly not the best in the league. There are vulnerabilities. I'm going to talk about one of them here soon. The Bills, people talk about how they haven't beaten anyone of note, and that's hard. That's a hard point to argue. But the teams that they have beaten are much closer to KC than you'll think. The Bills have been a much better down-to-down football team than KC, and that's a much better way to measure success. The Bills' offensive EPA is 0.18. That's 3rd in the NFL. The Chiefs are 9th. About, cut that in a 3rd, and that's where the Chiefs are. And defensively, yes, the Chiefs have the edge, but not quite as drastic as the offensive edge is. It's the good old case of better offense versus better defense, right? So who are you going to go with? I talked about you want to have the offense in your pocket most of the time. But there's one angle that I love with this Bills offense, and that's their 12 personnel against Kansas City's defense. That's why Dalton Kincaid is very important to have in the lineup this week. I'm not sure if he is or not at this point, but we know we're going to see 12 personnel from this Bills team. And we know KC's defensive success rate falls significantly. Look at what the Bucs did versus the Chiefs. Look what the Ravens did versus the Chiefs. This 12 personnel is a problem for this Chiefs team. We also have playoff revenge. That playoff game where there was it was just an awkward game in general. The Bills missed the field goal to tie. 40-year-old A.J. Klein was playing linebacker, defending Kelce, which was just not going to happen. Do you think Pacheco is going to be back in this week, Jim?
I do, but I don't like saying that on a Tuesday. But yeah, I do. I think that this game is circled. Now they've told us that if he plays, he's going to get a handful of touches. But yes, I do. But I hate saying that before the Wednesday injury report.
Well, as much as Kincaid means to the Bills offense this week is what Pacheco means to the offense of Kansas City, but if he's not going to be getting the usage he once was,
He's not. That's
he's
confirmed.
not going to. It's not going to be that big of a deal. Pacheco ran the ball versus team 100 yards on 6 yards per carry in the playoffs last year. Are they going to be able to repeat that, even if he is limited to some extent? I highly doubt that that's the case. You said it yesterday on the live stream. We have a 9-0 team as a dog on the road. Even though, the line that I follow, open 2.5, hasn't really moved off. We have seen a lot of other books start moving this line towards the Bills.
I wanted to let you know, and I hate to interrupt, but Ron Crawford says he's not coming back. As of 8:10 KC radio report, said he's coming back for the Panthers game. So
yeah, that's a good sign. And obviously on the other side, you definitely want Kincaid in for that 12 personnel, that package to be significant. So yeah, we have a 9-0 team on the road as a dog, line moving against them. You have the market situation, home favorites between -1 and -3, when 60% plus of bets. Is that still the case? The 61 or more, yes, you got 78% of bets on the road team. The home team is 9-4 ATS, even better straight up. And if both teams were made the playoffs in the prior season, 5-0 ATS, 5-0 straight up. There was no need for me to wait for this market to develop. I knew what I was going to do as soon as I seen. I was looking at +1.5 in the look ahead. Lines closed, lines reopened. Bills are favorites. I got Bills -125 on the money line.
Bills -129. So at this point,
-125.
yes, sorry, Bills -125. So at this point, the Chiefs are not going to cover then for a fourth straight week, in your estimation. Fourth straight week.
I feel like the Chiefs aren't going to win a 10th straight game. That's more the way I see it. This team could easily be 500 or one game above or below at this point.
We keep getting paid fading them. So we've done that. Now, I don't think I had the balls in the Raiders game, which was a huge mistake, but the last 2 weeks we have. And now here we go against the Bills. Tay Way says not betting against Mahomes as an underdog. Ron Crawford, who knows this Kansas City team inside and out, says in his Twitter handle, Ron KC fan is fading the Chiefs. I find it extremely difficult here.
I've heard a lot of people talking about the pros are just taking the Chiefs. They're just blindly taking the Chiefs as dogs. So I guess that's a good angle.
What do you think of the total in this one here? This is a huge football game where it'll be imperative to keep the opposition off the field. We have a 46 right now, or 46.5. This opened up 46.5, dropped down to 45.5, it's come back up. If you had a free bet right now on the $46,500 at the book, what would you do?
I'd have to take the under. I think that both defenses, I think that the Bills defense has a better matchup against the Chiefs offense because they've been very weak and they have the ability to guard the tight end position. No Pacheco. I don't think they're going to be able to move the ball very efficiently on the ground. And I think it's going to be a playoff atmosphere, right? So I definitely think the under is in play. Free bet under.
Troy has moved on the Bills at -125. Sammy Calmer says Mahomes 11-1-1 against the spread as a dog. That's the big one. Sunday, 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Let's get into the Sunday nighter. This game was flexed for us, 8:20 p.m. Eastern. Cincinnati Bengals 4-6, 3-2 on the road at the LA Chargers, 6-3, 3-1 at home. SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. Let's get into the line history here for this one. We'll start with the total. This total is at 47, -110 to the under. It opened up at 46. We've gone up a point, which doesn't really make sense to me that it would go up because I do not think it's the Bengals dictating play in a football game like this. I think it's the Chargers dictating play. The Chargers are just a much more complete football team, but the Bengals have high octane offense. This opened up with the Chargers -2. It's moved to -1.5. I want to take the Chargers here, but I was nervous about the spot, wanted to talk it out. 79% of the tickets, 98% of the cash on the spread on the Bengals. On the money line, 50% of the tickets, 96% of the cash on the Bengals. 75% of tickets, 84% cash on the over, and this line's moving up. Harold Williams says the Bengals need this one. I don't care if they need it. I like them going for 2. I had no problem with that. But Zach Taylor doesn't seem to grasp momentum. And those 2 4th downs going for it was just inane. You're giving. Why would you give opportunity? Why you poke the bear? Why you pour gasoline on the fire? What you had a chance just to keep suffocating them. You don't give them oxygen. You don't give them the chance for oxygen. And those 2 4th downs were so ridiculously poorly thought of that I find it difficult to trust the Bengals, who shouldn't be 4-6. We're in SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. Let's start with the Bengals passing offense, 4th in the league, 254.8 yards per game. It's magical. We've seen it. We saw what Jamar Chase did last week, 264 yards passing, receiving, and 3 touchdowns. What a monster. Rushing offense, 29th, 89.7 yards per game. I think that will change because Chase Brown is the real deal. He can run and catch out of the backfield. I think that will change. Red zone offense, 2nd, 72.4%. Their 3rd down offense, 3rd, 47.3%. It's a good offense. And their passing defense, their whole defense is just being so bad this year. Their red zone defense is 2nd worst in the league. They allowed touchdowns 71.9% of the time. Their 3rd down defense is 29th in the league at 45.8%. And I know everybody is going to be thinking of Jamar putting up the ridiculous video game numbers and how well they played against the Ravens. I want the Chargers here, but I needed to talk it out. Pass defense for the Bengals, 23rd. They allowed 220.2 yards per game. Rush defense, 17th. Bengals coming off extra rest and prep after a wild 35-34 loss at Baltimore on Thursday night. Outgained the Ravens 470 to 389. Joe Burrow was 34-56 for 428 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. He did fumble twice, lost one of them. As I said, Jamar Chase was a monster. 457 yards receiving in 2 games against the Ravens this season. An NFL record for one player against another team. Chase Brown, 13 carries for 42 yards, caught 9 for 52. Bengals went 8-16 on 3rd down, but the pass rush was completely invisible. We see this so often. And what is one of the Chargers' greatest strengths is their offensive line. 0 sacks, 1 quarterback hit. They couldn't get stops in the 4th quarter when the game was on the line. Baltimore had 231 of their 389 total yards in the 4th quarter. Ravens were 7-12 on 3rd down, went a perfect 4-4 in the red zone. T. Higgins has missed 3 straight games with a quad injury. And I told you, when they tagged him in the offseason, he's not going to rush back for anything. He doesn't owe Cincinnati anything. He wanted a contract. He didn't get it. They franchised him. And now, why push it to come back? Let's get into the chart. Now you could say because next year's contract will come up, but why come play half hurt? That might hurt your numbers. Talk about the Chargers. Passing offense, 22nd in the league, 196.4 yards per game. Rushing offense, 19th and 117.9 yards per game. Red zone offense, 18th, 54.2%. 3rd down offense, 13th, 39.8%. That's better than we imagined, all of those numbers. I didn't think their offense, I thought it was a bottom 3rd offense, not a middling offense, which is what it is. Pass defense, 9th in the league, 191.6 yards per game. Rush defense, 9th in the league, allowing 110.6. Their red zone defense, 2nd in the league. They allow touchdowns, 38.9%. Their 3rd down defense, 5th in the league. They allow first downs 32.8% of the time. Just going over the stats, I want the Chargers here. They're the complete football team. Coming off a 27-17 victory at home over the Titans, 6-3. It's their best start since 2018 when they went 7-2. They've won 4 of 5 games. They've already gone over last season's victory total. I mean, I don't know how Staley has a job in the league. You shouldn't be allowed to have a job in the league. I know he's not a head coach, but you shouldn't be allowed. When you screw up at that magnitude, there should be penalties. They're not. It's an old boys club or whatever the hell it's called. Herbert, 14 of 18 for 164 yards and a touchdown, no picks, 32 yards rushing and a touchdown on the ground. He's the 7th quarterback since the NFL-AFL merger and the first since Phillip Rivers in 2018 to have a passer rating of at least 90 in each of the first 9 games of the season. He's playing very well. McConkey led receivers with 2 catches for 52 yards. Gus Edwards comes back. So now you got the 1-2 spot with J.K. Gus, 10 carries for 55 yards. Dobbins, 15 for 50. Chargers 4-10 on 3rd down, 3 of 5 in the red zone. They allow a league low 13.1 points per game. They are the 4th defense since 1990 and the 1st defense since the 2013 Chiefs to allow 20 or fewer points in each of their first 9 games. It was the first time all season that the Chargers allowed points on an opening drive. Pass rush, 7 sacks, 9 quarterback hits. Held the Titans to 3-9 in the third down and 1-3 red zone. Now I know Titans are trash. Trey Pipkins was inactive. So Jamari Salyer got the start at right guard. We'll have to keep an eye on that. And Christian Fulton missed the second straight game with a hamstring injury. Take it away for us here, Troy. Are you going to talk me off moving on the Chargers? Because I want them. I know the line's moving against me. Take it away.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit here and try to talk you off. And I'm reluctant to do so because it's 2 years now, I haven't had the right read on this Chargers team, but I just cannot let it go. You look at who this Chargers team has played, what offenses have they seen? Titans, the Browns, Saints, Cardinals, Broncos, Chiefs, Steelers, Panthers, Raiders. There's really only 2 offenses there that are grading out in the top half of the league. And they're not even elite in the offensive categories. Kansas City and Arizona. They lost both of those games. Now, they did push on the spread against KC. Now, obviously, they lost as a dog against Arizona on the road. And how do we know that this defense is elite? I mean, it's hard to believe that it is elite. The numbers look like they're elite. When they play these bad teams, they look elite. But they just allowed 6 yards per carry to the Titans, almost 300 yards of offense to Will Levis. 17 points. That could have been a lot worse if Will Levis can actually put something together in the red zone. One thing I do believe is this will be the first time the Chargers allow 20 or more points all season long, and that might be enough to win this game. I also believe the defense has taken strides for the Bengals in the right direction. I mean, before that fumble with 7 minutes left in the third quarter, they were rolling. They were up 2 scores. They had the ball. Without that fumble, I mean, I think that the entire complexion of that game changes. They held the Baltimore Ravens to 99 yards on 25 carries. That's 4 yards per carry. That's the best mark of the season against anybody playing against the Baltimore Ravens. You know how highly I think that of that offense. And I just don't think that the Chargers defense is just going to ramsack this offense and vice versa. I mean, the Chargers have only had totals of 42 or more in 2 games this season. And they lost both of them. Both of them, that was the KC and the Cardinals game that I was alluding to earlier. I think the high total is the first indicator that the Bengals are the right side in this matchup. I also think that the total moving towards the over is another thing that correlates with the Bengals winning on the money line. And the sharp action on the money line in this profile is very efficient. There's a lot of games that fall in this 1 to 2.5 range, 65% on both the spread and money line. And currently the Bengals, especially looking at the money line cash flow, is is in favor of the Bengals on the money line. I've been wanting to fade the Chargers. I just talked about a teaser with this team, Bengals, and the who did I tease them with? Falcons. Bengals, Falcons teaser, and I got the Bengals plus 1.5, minus 107.
Wow. Bengals also plus 1.5, minus 1.
It's just something I have to do. I don't want to go against your feelings either, because I think you're on point lately, Jim. And when I heard you, when we talked pre-show and you talked about the Chargers, you talked about the Steelers, it made me very uneasy. But this is a bet that I had already made. And I just cannot believe in this Chargers team with their current build.
It's funny. I can't believe in this Bengals team with their current build.
Yeah.
And everything I've seen shows me that this Chargers team is a well-coached, balanced unit. And everything I've seen from the Bengals, it tells me that Zach Taylor's holding on for dear life, making poor decisions that he can rationalize through analytics. But this game is more than numbers. It's momentum and energy. And Zach Taylor lost the game for the Bengals. And not going for 2. I agreed with going for 2.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
But here's the thing, though, too, Jim, is the Bengals, if you look at their schedule remaining, you see nothing but winnable games on their resume here.
I've seen that all year.
Yeah.
All season long, I've seen winnable games.
They've had the Ravens twice, the Chiefs, the Eagles. This is okay.
Jermaine says Bengals can stop this offense. Maybe they can. And Dennis Garcia has a point here with this total. I mean, how is there a 47 in a Chargers game? I know that last game last week went over. 27-17. That total was at 40 and went to 44. But then I don't see the Bengals. You know what? I'm going to need to sit with this for longer. I'm certainly not going to bet this tonight. Fat Panda says Bengals are dead. Chargers about to mop the floor with them. They're not dead, but I like hearing this. And Jermaine says Bengals probably jump on the ass fast. We'll see how this bangs out. Troy has moved on the Bengals at +1.5. We will be live right here for Bengals Chargers. Hopefully Troy will open up the show like he does with us on our live streams. Financially Free and Focus has 47 because of Bengals offense and lack of defense. Yeah, no, I see the number. If you watch the Chargers play, they played against a team that didn't care in the Titans. I think that was part of it, that feeling of not caring. Again, they allowed that touchdown early and then a meaningless one late. We'll have to see how this bangs out here. Sammy Commerce says would like to see Higgins play. We talked about it from the beginning of the season that you did not feed your superstars, Jamar and T. Higgins. You're going to pay the consequences, and they've had to pay the consequences. Fun cap. Troy on the Bengals. I'm going to need more time. Let's talk about our Monday nighter, where the fun stops, man. 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Houston Texans 6-4, 2-3 on the road at the Dallas Cowboys 3-6, 0-4 at home. We're at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Let's get into the line history here. It's our last game on the board. Thank you guys so much for rocking with us, man. It means so much to have your support. This total's at 42. It's slightly juiced to the over. This opened up at -107. It's now -109. So we've had 2 cents of movement towards the over. On the point spread, we have the Cowboys +7.5 at -111. They open +7.5 at -108. From a cash flow standpoint here, we have 44% of the tickets and 41% of the cash on the Cowboys, 83% of the tickets and 92% of cash on the over. Jerry's already told us there's going to be no mid-season firing. He also made the mistake of making it clear that there's going to be a firing as soon as the season's over. McCarthy's gone. Bad actor, but not during the season. Maybe everybody already knew he was going to be fired, but he's, Jerry won't be the scapegoat when he should be. But McCarthy's, I get it. Fire him. Passing offense for the Texans, 15th, 218.7 yards per game. Rushing offense, 18th, 119.4 yards per game. Red zone offense, 14th, 55.9% touchdown rate. Third down offense, 16th, 38.6%. Now, these stats don't mean anything because, don't have Dak at quarterback. Pass defense, 4th. They allow 174.7 yards per game. Rush defense, 11th. Oh, sorry. I'm tripping, man. Last game, I'm giving you the Texan stats. What does it matter with Dak? Those are the middling stats of the Houston Texans, who, of course, have been playing without their top 2 receivers. Pass defense, 4th, 174.7 yards per game. Rush defense, 11th, 113.3. Red zone defense for the Texans being a problem all year. They're 29th. They are allowing 69.2% of the time touchdowns. Their third down defense, 12, 35.7. Texans come in off a 26-23 loss at home to the Lions, despite intercepting Goff 5 times. Stephon Diggs out for the season with the torn ACL. Nico Collins missing his 5th straight game with a hamstring injury. This Texans offense does not look good. Stroud's struggling. 19-33 for 232 yards, touchdown, 2 picks. John Mechie led receivers with 5 for 74 and a touchdown. Dalton Schultz caught 3 for 66. And Joe Mixon ran 25 times for 46 yards and a touchdown and caught 2 passes for 44 yards. The Texans went 6 of 15 on third down and 2 of 4 in the red zone. Look, the defense was really good. And we knew that Azeez Al-Shaair would be back in, but we wanted to see what it looked like with Jimmy Ward back and Jerry Hughes back, and they both looked really good. The pass rush didn't get a sack, but they got 5 quarterback hits. And, of course, they picked off Goff 5 times. Laster had 2 of them. Henry Teo had 1. Kalen Bullock had 1. Will Anderson missed the game with an ankle injury. He hasn't practiced since the injury. So, it's Derek Barnett opposite Danielle Hunter. Obviously you want Anderson out there. And we'll have to wait. Also, Kamari Laster left the game with a concussion. He's in concussion protocol. So key information here. We need to find out if Will Anderson Jr. is coming back. We need to know if Kamari Laster is going to get through concussion protocol. Let's talk about the Cowboys. What a train wreck Their rushing offense, 31st in the league, 83.7 yards per game. It's horrific. Their red zone offense was 31st in the league with Dak. What a mess. Third down offense, 22nd, 35.9%. Their passing defense, 17th. They allow 210.8 yards per game. They're the second worst rush defense. They allow 152.1 yards per game. The red zone defense is the worst in the league. They allow touchdowns on 77.4% of opposition opportunities. And their third down defense, actually 11th at 35.5%. If last week was any indication of what is to come, this is going to be a hideous finish to the season for the Cowboys. 4 straight loss, 34-6 at home versus the Eagles. It was the worst offensive showing for the Cowboys since they moved to AT&T Stadium in 2009. Dak, we expect to be done for the season, and Cooper Rush looked awful. 2 years ago, he looked good. Remember, he went 4-0 until they lost to the Eagles. On Sunday, he looked horrible. 13-23 for 45 yards. Fumbled twice, losing both of them. Replaced by Trey Lance, went 4-6 for 21 yards and a pick. Cowboys were outgained 348 to 146. Jake Ferguson led receivers with 4 catches for 24 yards, and he lost a fumble. CeeDee Lamb caught 6 for 21. Rico had 12 carries for 53 yards. Zeke returned from the team-levied suspension by running 6 times for 22 yards. He also lost a fumble. The Cowboys put up 2.6 yards per play, went 0-2 in the red zone. The defense battled, but they were just on the field too much. Micah Parsons returned to the lineup after missing 4 games with the ankle injury. He had 2 sacks, one of them leading to a fumble that put Dallas on the Philadelphia 6-yard line with the Cowboys down 7-3. I mean, that was a huge play. They had a chance to get in the game, take a lead. Pass rush had 5 sacks, 8 quarterback hits. Trayvon Diggs had an interception. Eagles were 4-5 in the red zone. Cowboys linebacker DeMarvion Overshown, he left with the knee injury in the second half. He had 2 sacks before he left. He is being diagnosed with bursitis in his right knee, which, he's not going to be out for too long. Got to find out if he's out for this one. Cowboys rookie left tackle Tyler Guyton was inactive with the neck injury. Asim Richards drew the start at left tackle. It didn't look very good. Deron Bland is still yet to practice since being activated to the Cowboys active roster on October 30th. So want to see if he had the stress fracture in his left foot. So we need to see if Deron Bland practices. Deron practices. Kalen Carson, CJ Goodwin are getting, the run. They need Bland back. Take it away for us here, Troy, our Monday nighter Texans Cowboys.
Yeah, I really don't have much to offer in this matchup. I need to spend a little bit more time with this Cowboys team and go back and rewatch some of that game and see how Cooper really looked at quarterback. It's really hard to find interest in this game because both teams are currently on my fade list. I think the Texans are in a get-right spot, but this is not a team that we could trust to win by margin. Their offensive scheme is flawed. I talked about their route tree not putting our guy in a favorable situation, not putting Stroud in a favorable situation, especially without Nico Collins on the field, stretching the field. So it'd be good to get him back in the team. And the Cowboys, they're going to be at a coaching disadvantage. Once again, they cannot stop the run. They can't stop the pass. Primetime may be enough to lift this team up in a one-game sample, little dead cat bounce for this team. And the market profile in the database is all over the Cowboys. The spread range, non-conference, primetime, all over the Cowboys. So it's probably the only way I could look. It'll be very, very ugly when I come in here and try to make a case on Monday Night Football for the Cowboys, but that's what it's looking like right now. But I have no action currently.
You better get to the liquor store before that breakdown, man. That's not going to be fun. Look, I expect Cooper Rush to be a quarterback, and I expect him to be much better than we just saw. Is that a fallacy? Is that ridiculous?
No, we've seen him win NFL football games.
So that would be part of your cap that you are actually buying low on Cooper Rush in the Cowboys.
Buying low on Cooper Rush and this Cowboys, they kept that game pretty close early on. And I think that knowing that the Eagles have the blowout ability, the Texans really don't have that this season. And it's really because of their offensive line, which is Swiss cheese. There's just so many holes in it. And I think a lot of it has to do with the scheme itself. Something's changed year over year. That's probably a good study for me, is to look at what the difference is between the offenses of the Texans year over year.
Jared TG says the current Texans offense right now is, hey, CJ, please do something miraculous.
Yeah.
It's well put, actually. All right. Well, the Monday nighter is not very appealing, man, but we'll be live right here and we'll be moving on it. So join us on Monday night right here at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. You might see the comment pinned to our top for new sports books. We have a bunch of offers from our friends in America and Canada. You just type in your state or province and they'll show you what's available. And we get a bonus if you go to one of the books. It helps out the channel. And we do not get a cent for anybody's losses. So keep that in mind. There are some companies that do. We don't. We want you to crush the books. We want this show to be a big part of it. And this is the first time all year that we are sitting here both in the black. What a grind it is. And we want double-digit units, each of us. I do feel like, we've come a long way in the year and a half that we've worked together. I do feel it, and then my record shows it. I feel like a more complete NFL capper than I've been, and I'm excited about this week's opportunity. Let's review action here on the Week 11 card. We start with both of us on the Eagles -3. Troy got a little bit better of a line. He's also on the Eagles-Dolphins moneyline parlay and an Eagles-Lions moneyline parlay. The Eagles-Dolphins -101, the Eagles-Lions -129. I also want the under in this football game. I'm going to decide between the under and the Washington team total under. I think I might end up on the Commanders team total under, so it's going to take but that's going to be bet tonight. I'm already on the Eagles -3.
I'll be looking for that. If I see you move on that, I'll probably end up there with you, Jim.
One of the two. I just got to figure out which one I'm going to move on. The Packers, Bears, I'm already on the under 41 at -110. I'm going to add Jacobs rush prop. And I bet less than 5 a year. And I'm going to study it some more. But this just screams at me. The Bears can't beat us. Let's just destroy them, one carry at a time. And they can't beat us. We don't need to take risks. Jordan Love has, all those interceptions. He was thinking about it, off their bye week. And, he's thrown 10 picks this year. It's not good. And so I think it's just a much more conservative game plan against the Bears team that they want to just slowly break down. A Bears rush defense that allows 133 yards per game. And it's a pretty good Bears defense, but that's the spot to attack them. Jaguars, Lions, you already heard the Lions are being tied with the Eagles for Troy. My guy Donut Silk's in the house. Well, my man. Then we have the under 40. I'm going to move on the under 40 in Vikings Titans. I'm going to move on that here tonight. Then Raiders Dolphins. We know it's part of your parlay with the Eagles. I kind of like the Dolphins. I don't like the short week, but I still think they take care of business. I probably stay off. Then we go to that was it right there. Shout out to our guy, Justin D. Brar. What a guy. Thank you so much, man. Respect. Justin D. shouting out my guy, Sonny Dollywall. I still have the from the ceremony. I still have it on. You wear it until it falls off. I still have it on. Sonny, my man Sonny got married, about a month and a half ago. Thank you, Justin D, for the donut. It means a ton to us, my man. The under 44 in Rams Patriots. I'm betting that this evening. Troy's on the Browns +1 at -107. I want to join him. And I plan on joining him. Then Colts, Jets. We talked about it. And this sounds crazy, but I do really believe in this. If Anthony Richardson is in, I'm betting the Colts. If he's not in, then he's got serious character flaws, and it will also teach me about AR. Troy's on the Ravens -3 at -115. I want the Steelers, but it looks like I got enough action right now to sit with the fact that he's on the Ravens. I know home dogs at this number have been horrible, but those home dogs aren't coached by Tomlin, who is very good in this situation. Troy is on a teaser with Atlanta +8.5 and the Bengals +7.5. Falcons Broncos is a tricky one. Seahawks 49ers, no move for me, but I did, max bet. Now that's just Indeed makes much bigger bets than I do, but $500 is the max bet. I have to call in if I'm going to go higher than 500. I got that on the division. Now the Cardinals are coming. No doubt about it. Troy's on the Bills -125. Ron Crawford spreadsheet play today. The Bills. 2 days ago, I was going to be on the Bills in this spot. And then today I got cold feet. And I wish this was our Sunday nighter. Oh, I don't know why this game wasn't flexed to that. Our Sunday nighter, Troy's on the Bengals plus 1.5. Is that going to get me off the Chargers? I don't know. I need more time with it. Also, I do agree with Dennis that this is too high of a total. So I'm going to be sitting with those thoughts here. I'm not going to move on it tonight.
Yeah.
And then our Monday nighter, Texans Cowboys. I hope, for the sake of humor and good times, that Troy comes in on our live stream and pitches the Cowboys to us. I hope just for levity.
It's likely. It's very likely. High forecast of Cowboys in our future.
You better be in the black. I hope this isn't. Oh, I need this one to get back in the black. Thank you, Troy. I love capping with you, man. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Truth Teller, Harold Williams, Spenny, Penny Bombs, Jermaine 34, Donut Silks. Tell me you didn't just say that. Chase J, Tariq B, Justin Deep. Thank you guys. Truly, truly. Thank you. Jared TG, Bankroll, Spence, Financially Free and Focused. Dennis Garcia, Slatsy, Jim W. Putt. Thank you guys. AOD. Thank you guys so much, man. Truly, truly, truly thank you. A big thank you to Jose Bouquet, who works tirelessly behind the scenes, making these shows look good and cutting up the individual games. He works so hard for our benefit. So thank you so much, Jose. Troy, my friend, I'm excited that we're both in the black. I would like double digits within 2 weeks for both of us. Take us home. Final words. Lead us into the future, my friend.
As always, I have to pay homage to my guy, Jimmy the Bag. What he does, the work he puts in for all of us, it's just immense. You won't find it anywhere else in the industry. I truly believe that. A great guy to get behind and start to understand these markets. And I haven't never called out Jose Bouquet in the background, cutting it up, doing his thing. He's also a pretty decent NFL capper.
Yeah.
So maybe we pay attention every Thursday for the Cappers contest in the Pub Sports Radio community. Just the best in the industry. I always say it, and I fucking believe it. I wouldn't come up here and say it every week if I didn't. So Pub Sports Radio, man, let's get it.